27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
Boom. Welcome to Rambo and Frens. I am your host, Joe Rambo. I am fully anticipating today to be one of the most logical, level-headed conversations that you will see on the internet or the interwebs or the mainstream media anywhere in the world, to be honest with you. These two that are coming on today, I'm gonna address Dave first. So Dave and I, when we first started talking, we were like, yeah, let's kind of like go on your show, go on my show. We'll go back and forth and we'll help each other out because we just connected on that level where we felt we could help each other. And it just so happens that I really stink at nighttime shows and we haven't been able to connect as much on his end. So when I put it out there today that AO was coming, there's a reason why I think that he accepted, but he accepted right away. First and foremost, because he's a great dude. And second of all, because he got to meet one of my best friends in the movement, who I also got to meet for the very first time at the Reawaken event. Face to face, I mean, right? So me and this dude, the third guest I'm talking about, which is the one and only awakened outlaw, for the first time got to meet face to face at that event. And it meant the world to me. And it meant everything to me to be able to introduce somebody that I met just recently that I connected with so well in Dave. So we talked at that event and we were like, man, we got to do a show. So it happened. Here we are. You guys are about to see and experience, hopefully, what I consider to be some of the most intelligent and yet again logical conversations that I had in all of the Reawaken tour. And those didn't happen at the event, right? So I'll just tell you, the event was awesome. And Dave and I spent 99% of the time that we had there together because we just got along that well. And AO probably spent 85 to 90% of that time with us. But that time was literally in those moments where we were like, okay, the event's long. What's going on out there in the front is taken care of because of speakers. And what's going on back here in the media room is being taken care of because, you know, Ivan Rakelin's doing a presser or whatever might have been going on. Other shows were interviewing people. So the greatest moments we had, and I can't wait to ask them about this, were like when we decided, hey, let's go get lunch. Like we legitimately were like, all this is going on. But the thing that was most important was the relationship that we had built with these other people that were like-minded, logical thinking, and that cared about everyone around them. And we went and we sat at lunch and we talked. And that's what I'm hoping to share with all of you today. Of course, on top of what happened last night, which was freaking epic, right? Of course, what happened with Elon Musk and getting to sit in front of him, which was freaking epic, right? But I am truly hoping to be able to share with you guys the experience that I had with these two men. So with that being said, let's hear from the boss and let's get this party started.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
Freaking Dave. What's up, brother?
What's up? Ah,
That
man,
was
how
a
you
good
doing?
intro, right? That pretty
That
much
was
summed
a
up.
that was a fantastic intro, man.
Yeah.
I'm humbled as always.
Yeah, dude. I'm going to say this to you before I bring on the guest of the hour, because you and I have been hanging out a lot. A lot of people are like, "Hey, you're getting like recognition with Badlands or whatever." Look, I couldn't be more grateful. I hope someday that I could be on a channel that's as great as Badlands. I cannot wait to go to GART, which you're going to as well. I think it's awesome. But if anybody tries to think that this show is getting the traction it's getting only because of Badlands, they would be sadly mistaken, and they would be remiss to not understand what you have done and the relationship you and I have built for this channel, and I hope for yours too. I hope I'm helping in the same way. Thank you.
Yeah, Rambo, thank you, man. You're being humble. I know you said that to me backstage, but um, dude, you're really damn good at what you do. You quarterback the show so well, and your methodology is right out of the Q playbook, the Socratic method. Like that's why you're really damn good at what you do. And yeah, it. Listen, I was telling you before, two of the most viewed shows we've had over the last month are with you on the channel. So I think it's just I think it's more so it's you and it's the way you interact with the people that come on, right? Like Abs and Stormy and AO and obviously myself and Mark. Mark says hi as well. He's taking a day off. He had a show last night, but it's one of those things when you can get on a show like this and have absolutely no set agenda and it just nails it for 2-3 hours and people stay engaged. Like that's something special and it's fun. So I wouldn't have missed today for the world, especially because AO's here.
My man. Right? I know. Let's just bring the dude on. Yo, buddy. How you doing, bro?
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How you guys? Everybody holding up? We're in this final stretch run. Energy is palpable.
What are we down to 8 days?
8 days.
Whoa.
8 days.
8
Anyone
days.
listening who hasn't voted, probably think about doing so if they can, and in person if you can. I just put it out there. Probably everybody has, but everybody also has friends or family. Maybe they could check on them. Just kind of throwing it out there. But every damn vote we can squeeze, right?
I saw a headline this morning. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, and I can't say I completely verified it yet, but I did see it in a few places. They're saying 46 million people have voted already.
Whoa.
That's a quarter. Well, if you go based on the inflated numbers of the last one, that's a quarter of the electorate already. That's a lot.
No, do you know what 46 is, Dave? It's the dash.
What's the record? Does anybody know the record for early voting? I'm gonna have to assume this is it, but
I would have to assume you're right. To be honest.
yeah. And you can see, I posted about last night, but just the idea that like, we have a postal service, right? And they're involved in this, and their union has endorsed a candidate, but we're supposed to trust that they don't have a thumb on the scale. But at the same time, we keep seeing, individuals dumping ballots, et cetera. Plus, we know all the thing, going on behind the scenes. But, how much do we not see, right? How many other incidents are there? We have to we know that it's there's cheating going on. They know there's cheating going on, and that we have to fight over whether or not it's even happening. It's mind-numbing to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hey, I actually have to run upstairs, but I would like to facilitate a conversation first as I do that. Can you guys each, while I'm going to turn my camera off and run upstairs and I'm going to come back, I can hear the whole time. Can you guys both explain the experience of meeting not only each other, but the amazing Patriots and Anons that we met at the Reawaken tour? I don't care who goes first. Dave, AO.
Dave, go first.
I mean, for me, it was funny, AO, because at one point, Rambo and I walked out. We were kind of walking the crowd, and one of our mutual viewers came up, and she's in the chat right now, in fact, and she was basically, almost in tears and thanking us for what we do. And I mean, that's what makes it all worth it. But it's funny because it's interesting when people are coming to us and almost like nerding out, like, oh my God, I get to meet Rambo, I get to meet this other person, and it's interesting because at the same time, like, we're having the same experience. So for me, like a year and a half ago, when I was in a real dark place and didn't have anyone, and I remember saying to, like, I mean, God, I guess, man, what I would give to be in one place with a bunch of people that are like-minded. And then it was not lost on me, when we were standing there watching Jim Brewer, when we were at the alley bar, I was almost like pinching myself, like, this is surreal. And so, like, for me personally, getting to meet someone like Rambo in person and Abs in person, who I've had some contact with, is one thing, but then getting to meet somebody like you, who I've been following on X for such a long time, and Beer at the Parades in the chat here, and all these other people. And what I said to Mark after the fact, I was like, what's amazing about all these people is that you have a fairground there with 3,000 people, and there's not an ego to be found for miles. Like, the way, like, to have Enoch come up to me, like Enoch, who's in the Q drops, and say, like, dude, your work's amazing. I didn't expect that to happen. So all you guys were so, all the OG Anons that have been in this game, to take in somebody like myself and Mark, who are kind of more of like the second generation, as Rambo always said, was just, again, I can't thank you guys enough. And it was an amazing experience. It really was.
Yeah, I concur. I kind of look at this cross pollination of, ideas, free speech across different platforms, different mediums, right? Different kinds of accounts that attract different people, but cumulatively, it's been a ride, man. I can't put words to it. And then going to events, I highly encourage people to go to an event if they haven't. The time spent, obviously, great speakers and things, but being able to interact with face-to-face people you've only known digitally really kind of brings it all around, and it just enhances and the relationships that we have, and also just our ability to better communicate, right? Becoming familiar with one another. So a lot of great people. Oftentimes, like this one, I actually personally enjoy the connections on the backside, going to eat, hanging out, as much, if not more, than the speakers themselves. So for that, I mean, it was just mind blowing to me, because once again, it just never fails to impact me, and knowing, I mean, we know we're not alone, right, in doing this, other people are involved, obviously, but yeah, the in-person thing really is a game changer in my opinion.
So
I agree.
I'm going to go ahead and add to that. Ao, you have a really cool demeanor about you that I look up to. Breaking Specters rated this show over on pill.net. Thank you very, very much. Hat tip. I appreciate you guys. Ao, I want to say that the way that you carry yourself, I think, is very natural. I don't think that you intend to do this, but your personality type has always been something I looked up to since I was a little kid, right? So I'm not necessarily talking about you specifically right now, but you fit into the mold that I'm about to describe. And I think that many people that are awake on a level that we are share that same trait. Dave and I even sat and did a small 15-minute piece that I don't think ever hit the air. Did it, Dave?
I'm gonna actually put it up this week. I was having trouble with the connection there, and I completely forgot about it. I just noticed it last night. Yeah, I'm gonna put that up.
Well, I'll give you the backstory so you can understand where I'm going with this, AO. Dave and I were sitting in the what's it called, media room, when Ivan Raiklan, who I really, 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 truly want to believe is a great guy. And I think that I have something here that he did yesterday that I think will show that he's part of the show. is what it is. But when Ivan Raiklan called together a press conference, everyone in the press room, the media room, flushed around him like literally like sheep. And I mean that with no disrespect. I think that we are all in some way, shape, or form part of the show. But when I watched that happen, I was a little taken back because we're in the press room and Ivan Raiklan called everyone together and, in my opinion, was using fifth generation warfare to its utmost power. So I watched a bunch of people with a lot of followers and a true message for this nation flock around him and point their cameras at him. And me and Dave kind of sat behind him. We kind of just sat there and we were like, wow, bro, are you watching this? This is like we are witnessing the show. And I mean that again, I'll repeat it. I mean that with no disrespect towards Ivan. I think what Ivan is doing is imperative, right? The show is imperative. However, Dave and I have a really hard time with like buying into it, right? So like that's where the line is and we struggle. And what I saw, a really cool trait I saw in you, AO, was the ability to think logically, the ability to love and respect everyone around you, and the want and need for the relationship part. And that's where those lunches became so important to me. And you weren't like sitting there with me and Dave dissecting the show. You were being who you are, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that it's mutual there. I did hear you mention me in the same. You said a mold, and I would have to agree with you. I've been often paralleled as having those traits, right? I mean that in a joking way. Probably didn't hit, but yeah. Boy, I tell you what, man. It's just I have so much respect for you and all the other people that put in here. When I was walking around the media room, I mean, the energy was great, and just watching people do all their shows and realizing, the Rogan interview, I think, kind of represents that in a bigger sense that we are the news now, right? Rogan went on with Trump, and that basically changed the landscape of politics moving forward. Citizen journalists that can have conversations and things that doesn't have to go through the filter of the fake news media and be spoon fed to us, right? I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, without question. Now, Dave, hold on, buddy. I'm gonna bring you guys all in, but I want to show you guys something. Okay, first and foremost, I want to say, I don't know if I missed any Rumble rants or whatever, but I promise you guys, if you support the show, you will get a shout out before the end. Thank you, Rumble, for making it easier to do such a thing. There is 1,500 people in here and 280 likes. I want you guys to know that we've been put on the leaderboard for the last 2 months, every episode that we've done of this show, because you guys are so active. So I want to say, first and foremost, thank you for hitting the like button. Second of all, please do us a favor. Let's continue that streak and hit the like button. Now, AO.
Yeah.
Did you see the video that I put on the Gilded server last night?
No, which one?
Right.
Maybe I had.
Don't worry about it. I'm going to show you now.
Okay.
So you have inspired, I would like to think that I'm part of this, but you, me, Dave, everybody involved in this movement have inspired my 10-year-old. When I say my 10-year-old, I've stepped in to be this boy's father. I did it because there was sexual abuse and some other things in the family. I did it because I lost my family through drug addiction. I'm no saint, right? You guys all know that story. However, we have been trying to, Kim and I have decided to try to instill a level of entrepreneurialism in these children so that they can stand strong in who they are when they become adults. So I want to play a video for you that I took last night, and this was a complete surprise to me. But he loves your avatar or whatever, and he loves that me. So I can't wait to show this to you. So I wanted to preempt it with, look, I don't even care if anybody wants to buy them. Just email me if you want one, because the next step in the process of teaching this young man to be an entrepreneur is that he has to stand by his word. And now we have to do shipping and take everybody. So you guys will understand what I'm talking about in just a second. Ayo, check this out, bro. Dave's already seen it. All right, guys, welcome to the impromptu, not really a commercial, kind of a commercial for my boy Kid Rambo here. I don't know if you guys see the t-shirt, but this is Kim's youngest child, her only son, what has quickly become my son's brother. And he surprised me tonight. So he, actually, all the kids have been talked to about potentially starting a business, right? And Nicholas is the first one to take the bull by the horns and really push and push and push to try to start something. So, do you want to tell everybody what it is you surprised me with tonight, you and your mom?
Yeah, we surprised him with buttons.
Okay. What other businesses have you been trying to do?
It would have been like stickers, making shirts, or like mowing lawns.
Okay. All right, my man. So, when I got home tonight, I found out that he used some photos from the Reawaken tour, which is why I wanted to get this on the air for this show, because of our guest today. So here's the photo that he stole from me and put on buttons. So this is the infamous, at this point, as far as I'm concerned, photo of the awakened outlaw, the Joe Rambo, in front of a good, bad, and the ugly poster at the, again, infamous alley bar from the Reawaken tour. And Nicholas went and took this photo and put it on 5 buttons. Now, I just bought these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smiley face and the most epic Donald Trump photo ever to be taken, right? Who are you voting for?
I can't vote.
Who should your dad vote for?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, how many Donald Trump signs are in the front yard?
More than 20.
Okay, so these are the buttons. We have the original 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buttons that Nicholas has ever made. This is, how old are you, Nicholas?
10.
10 years old. And this is the first business you've ever started. Is there going to be more?
Yeah.
Are you going to be a little Don Trump Jr.?
I don't know.
All right. If anybody wants one of these buttons, look, name your price. How much did you charge me?
It was only supposed to be $3 a piece, but you bought it for $50.
You weren't supposed to tell everybody that part. I don't care what I spent. How much are the buttons?
$3.
Okay, so for $3, if you guys are interested in one of the first original 7 of the buttons that he, besides the 5 he gave to his Grammy, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly, the awakened outlaw, and Joe Rambo button. Just hit me up on Rambo and Frens .proton. What is my email?
I don't know. Shouldn't you know this?
Rambo and Frens @proton.me. If you're interested in a button, name your price. Nicholas owes what? How much more do you owe on your machine? Now that
$50.
you owe $50 more. So
Mhm.
he owes $50 more. I bought these buttons to pay for the first half. If anybody's interested, please hit us up. Awaken Outlaw. If you really want one, buddy, I love you. I'll send you the best one for free. Tell AO you love him.
Why?
Because he's awesome, and you're freaking making money off his face, bro. All right. Much love. Continue the show. We'll see you next time. All right. Let's watch it.
That was great.
Boom. Yeah. How cool
Young
is that?
entrepreneur capitalist.
Yep. Yeah. He also made some of NewsTreason last night after I did that. And so I told him that he owes you both money.
Royalties.
That's one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. It
Yeah.
really
So
is. Yeah, he's a future podcaster too, man.
Yeah, I'm hoping him and Owen and the girls, they all enjoy the podcasting thing. the Friday night Zoom, the girls have actually sang to the crowd, that's on the Friday night Zoom a few times. We're just trying to do our best to try to like rebuild America. And I mean it when I say this goes out to everybody. I don't even need the $3. It's not about that. But if anybody wants one of those buttons, he has the ability to make another 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 more. It's not about the money. If you want to send him money, you can do it to the at the bottom of the screen. It's running across the Cash App. So if you want to give him the $3 for the button, by all means, that's going to go to him and paying back his machine. He owes $50 more for. The Cash App is running Rambo and Frens. So Cash App Rambo and Frens. If you want to send the $3 for the button, you can do it that way. Just write it that what it's for, or you can just contact me through the email, which is ramboandfriends@proton.me. I don't care about the money. I'll send you the button. Okay. I just want him tomorrow to have to take responsibility, package, and ship out the buttons. Okay. So if anybody's wants one, please let me know. And you can tell me if you want the smiley face, you can have the smiley face. If you want the most epic Donald Trump photo that's ever been taken, you can ask for that one. You want the good and the bad, the ugly, or NewsTreason, whatever it might be. I don't care. Just let me know, and we'll have him start shipping tonight, tomorrow. That'll be awesome. So, hey, I just wanted to
Rambo,
know you inspired that young man, bro.
That's awesome. I got the bad and the ugly part down. Without a doubt. Joe, you're such a kind guy. I mean, your praise of others. I mean, you embarrass me personally, but big picture, just your kindness and your sincerity, and I think that bleeds through into your show, which then helps support why so many people are watching and paying attention. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we all have so much more in common, and so this discovery that we're going through, this paradigm shift together, man, shows like this, in a way, this personal way that we interact is different than just digitally. So I think it's just great.
Well, I think we all learn from each other. Dave, sorry to jump in again, but AO, you keep using a JFK Jr. quote. I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when you say rising tides raise all ships.
Lift all boats.
Lift all boats. Okay.
Yeah.
There's multiple things that you've said throughout the years of now supporting each other that I've grasped onto. That is one of them. And there's another one where you ask people, how does it feel?
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel? Because that's the point. When you go backwards through the 5th generation warfare idea, you couldn't be more right. And so I've grasped onto that tremendously, because when it comes down to things like, say an assassination attempt, or even last night with the most epic freaking rally that anyone's ever experienced. Hang in, guys. We're going to get into it.
Preach.
How does it make you feel? Right? That is narrative warfare. That is motivating people through emotion. And it doesn't always have to be fear-based. And we witnessed that last night, right?
Right. To me, it's akin to arguments against nationalism, right? When the powers that be demonize nationalism because it obviously stands directly in opposition to globalism, but the idea, that it doesn't have to be to the detriment of others, right? That's how they've tried to negatively slander nationalism. It's like, oh, you just want to help your country, screw everyone else, and it's like, no, we can all win, right? The rising tide, or help pushing the ideas. It's that it doesn't have to mean to the detriment of other people, that we understand that naturally by working together, we're just more successful. Anyway, I think the parallel is interesting because you can see the same patterns being used against us, and that affects how we feel, right? But being cognizant about how you feel, in my opinion, it's like situational awareness, right? When you're out and about, you don't, if you're paying attention, you're in a different mindset than if you're just reacting to what happens to you. And that pause, I think, gives us the ability to kind of see things playing out as opposed to just reacting from our gut. Even if, and that might be for people that are still in the process of waking up, not always for us, but yeah, the dynamic is amazing.
Amen. Go ahead, Dave. Take the mic for a while.
No, I was just saying, I was just thinking about it as AO was walking through that. The number of times I had debates or arguments with people in like 2016 and 2017 and 2018 about the the benefits, the truth behind nationalism, because as AO rightfully said, it's been demonized so much, going back to no less than somebody that's headlined in the news right now, Hitler. Not to get into that conversation, but that's what they connected to. And it's what it's like trickle down economics, right? That in the 80s that was such a big argument, which it shouldn't be, because there's really only one right answer to that, which is if you don't have people to employ others, then there's not going to be any jobs. But yet they still turned it into a debate. It's the same thing with nationalism. It's a parallel to health issues, which I think most people in this audience are probably sensitive to in one way or another. And it's like, listen, if your own household, if you're dealing with illness or anxiety or depression or any of those things, and you can't get your own house in order, you are simply not going to have the capability to go out and help other people, your neighbors. And it's kind of the same thing with nationalism. If you have what we have in this country right now, which is 70,000 factories lost since NAFTA went into place, and abject poverty and health issues and all these other things and infighting, if you don't clean that up in a nationalistic way, how on earth could this country possibly help other countries? It simply defies logic. So and that's what people are learning now in a mass way. But just a few short years ago, there were people and propagandists trying to actively tell people why nationalism is bad, and I just don't even think there's an argument there when you truly understand how it all works.
Right. I could jump on that real quick because,
yeah, please.
Well, just the self-interest, right? I mean, the idea that we can make determinations and decisions based on our own self-interest doesn't mean, once again, to the detriment of others. Like that works its way down in a microcosm to a family, right? You make decisions that are in the best interest of your family, but that doesn't mean you want to screw everybody else, right? It's just but if we're all working with the idea, that's why Trump loves deals, right? It's not always to screw the other guy, but like pointing out that things aren't fair, they at least need to be fair, right? So if nationalism is bad, then it's the same idea. You want others to suffer, that you have to screw them over. And I just see that mindset as the way that the deep state, the globalist cabal, it's ugly, and right out of the gate. And I don't believe people naturally gravitate toward things that don't make sense, because it makes sense. Our government, I know it's shocking, should act in our best interests, as should every other nation, right? I think that's what kind of we're getting to.
Hey, damn it, I lost my thought process because I was pulling things up at the same time as you were talking. Damn it, what were you talking about?
You're asking me?
Shit,
I'm
I
talking
know.
about self-interest. How it's the family unit is kind of a smaller microcosm of making decisions on a mass scale for the country, and how that's okay.
Go ahead,
or at
Dave.
least it should be.
Well, I wanted to just expand on one thing that AO just said. It's such an important point, and something that I think that I'm sensitive to, having been run a business. The notion of a deal, right? Another thing that's propagandized, especially when it comes to Trump. But it happens in business in general, this idea that when there's a deal made, that there's a winner and a loser. No, that's actually not usually how it works, right? When people sit down, yeah, there's always going to be a part of the deal that I'm not happy with on one side of the table, and Rambo or AO on the other side is also not happy with certain parts, but you're accepting the deal because by and by you're both agreeing that it's ultimately in the best interest for the two of you. That's when a deal is reached. That's literally negotiation 101. But they want to turn it into something else. And Trump especially, that's absolutely what all of this is about. Is he's not up there saying we have to, he's not trying to paint America when he says being powerful and rich and the most powerful. He's not saying it at the expense of other countries. He's talking about coming to a table and actually making a deal, which, as we all know, is something he did from the Abraham Accords on down throughout his whole administration.
Ayo,
Yeah.
hold on, because I remembered. Thank you,
Nope.
Dave, for jogging my memory on what Ayo was talking about. It was spoken about last night, specifically what you guys are talking about. So, one of the guys that opened up for Trump talked about. I can't wait to play this clip because it should go viral. But he talked about there being, going way back in time to the point where we had tariffs only, no income tax, and one of the other people that introduced Trump talked about the art of the deal and the art of the comeback. Two of the titles of Donald Trump's books. I can't look at that point without thinking, how far back does this operation really go? When
Right.
Donald Trump's biggest books are The Art of the Deal, which we've watched ad nauseum, which he's now talked about as he's campaigned through 4 years of another president's term. And now we are looking at what is encapsulating his second title, which is The Art of the Deal. I can't just ignore that. I know they're just titles of books, but what the hell? How is it that future is proving past so clearly?
And the art of the comeback is, even that book is a parallel to what has happened over the last 3 years. You think back to, again, I'm talking about the public narrative, just to be clear. Following January 6th, you could argue that despite us knowing what we knew, that there might have not been a time where Donald Trump optically had his back more against the wall than in the wake of January 6th. And if you read The Art of the Comeback, the beginning of the book explains, a lot of people forget this now because it was only, I think it was about, ironically, Rambo, if I'm correct, you might want to fact check me on this. I think The Art of the Comeback was written around 2011-ish. I might be wrong about that. But the premise of the book that people don't realize is, in that year when he wrote that book, or the years prior to that leading to that book, he was nearly $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion in debt with a personal guarantee. So meaning he couldn't discharge that money through a business. He was literally negative $1 billion despite all his assets. He owed personally $1 billion. So it's an interesting parallel, in my opinion, to what you've seen take place over the last 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me
And we
take
need
a
to make a
second.
comeback.
Hold on, Ayo. I want you to hold that thought, and I want you to give it to me in just 1 second. Dave, can you check your microphone settings? Just because I don't think they're the same as they've normally been. If they are, that's fine. You're still clear enough, but you sound a little echoey. Go ahead, Ayo. What were you thinking?
Oh, now you made me lose my train of thought.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. We can go into. I only have a few of these, but I'd love to bring up before we get into the epic. What was the most epic rally that's ever been last night? I'd love to talk a little bit about the Joe Rogan. So there's just a few clips that I pulled. So I'm going to start this, Ao, and then I'll give you the first take on this clip. You ready?
Yep.
I honestly believe that there's probably a lot of fraud. I had a poll, Washington Post, ABC, in the Hillary thing on Wisconsin. They had me down 17 points the day before the election. I knew it was wrong because I had a rally. I had 29,000 people at a racetrack, and it was like 0 degrees, Wisconsin. And they had me down 17 points. In other words, you had no chance. And I won. And I called up my pollster, who's a good guy, good guy. And I believe he's legitimate. And, and some of them are, and some of them aren't. I said, tell me, why did they have me down so much? I mean, nobody's going to believe them the next time. They said they don't care. When you're down 17 points, people are going to stay home. They're not going to vote.
Right.
Because they're going to say, I love Trump, but I'm not going to waste my time. It's cold out. I said, but why don't they make it 4 or 5? He said, at 4 or 5, they're going to go and vote. At 17, they're not going to go and vote.
So
think of it. I was 7. This is the Washington Post ABC poll. I was down 17 points in Wisconsin, and I won. It's crooked stuff.
There's a lot of crooked.
Hilarious. How many times can he say 17? But nothing's happening. He always works numbers into his responses a lot of times.
Do you know there was only two other numbers, AO, that he said right there? One was 45, 4 to 5, 45. Okay, Donald Trump, right? The second number he said in that clip was 29. So what do you think I did?
Yeah, probably post reference, but
29.
yeah, it's when I watch the show. I mean, I've mentioned before, but it's a seminal event in the history of media where, you know, as you see, you know, we've seen the newspapers fall away, right, and go out of business and consolidate, still bleeding, hemorrhaging jobs for a reason, and now that's transferring over to the legacy fake news media, the broadcast media, dead man walking, and it's transferring over to citizen journalists and, you know, shows like this and others, and it just changed the entire landscape, you know. And so you have Trump here both using that medium to reach out to us, you know, as human beings, and then a lot of people get to see him, you know, like the rally, and there's a lot of eyes that watched it because it was billed and sold as this, you know, negative rally. But I mean, a lot of people tuned in and they didn't see that, and that reaffirms and confirms to them that the fake news media is full of shit, right? And then they see him humanized with Rogan, and, you know, they're talking sports and other things. I mean, the idea that he's this wannabe dictator fascist. I mean, back to the point. I mean, art of the deal, right? I mean, if a dictator or a fascist wouldn't look for mutually, you know, beneficial situations, calling things fair, right? I mean, the UN, Trump goes in and NATO and says, you know, the same way, you guys aren't paying your fair share. We're carrying the whole burden. Our government got us in a position where we're, you know, the #1 donation country to Ukraine, you know, all these things, and it negotiated all these deals, and the U.S. was always on the losing end of it, right? And that's the norm, and it scares them, I think, because Trump exposes them by being able to close the deals, right? And in a way that everybody wins, and that exposes them because that's not their game, right?
100. So now I want to play a small game with you, Dave. I see you're trying to present stuff. Let me ask you guys this first while I read the drop, because he said 17, then 29,000, then 17, 17, 17, 45, 4 to 5, 17. That's what he said in that clip. Okay. If you're a numbers guy or a drops guy, you're instantly going to think we need to go look at something. And I think this brings credence to what AO was just saying. But I want to read this drop, and I want you to tell me how many things are more relevant today than they were when the drop was posted. Okay. Trump referenced 17, then 29. Drop 29 says, some things must remain classified to the very end. North Korea, ding, 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 is not being run by Kim. He is an actor in the play who is the director. The truth would sound so outrageous, most Americans would riot, revolt, or reject, etc. Does anybody have thoughts on North Korea? Because they just decided to go over to Russia and help fight Ukraine.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Well, that's exactly what my mind goes to.
Right.
Not to mention that apparently Kim Jong-un was hanging out outside of Madison Square Garden yesterday.
I can't wait for you to show that. Okay. Hold on. Hold that thought, because I want you to show that. All right. So the next point in the drop is the pedo networks are being dismantled.
Yep.
Right. Diddy. Okay. Epstein. Okay. The sex ring outside of DC. It's kind of blatantly obvious that that's going on right now, right?
And more, we keep all talking about this. Go back and look at the number of times, the number of headlines we've gotten over just in the last year publicly of sex trafficking rings being taken down outside of the famous people, right? There was just one last week in Florida, 157 people, Disney people involved, California, Nevada, New Mexico. I mean, it's off the charts. There's not a lot of people outside of our movement connecting these dots, but if we had a real media, that would be one of the major headlines, the number of rings being taken down, because it's in the news like practically weekly at this point outside of the famous people.
Yeah, instead we're talking about a joke about Puerto Rico. Right. I mean, it's so unimportant. You know, not only has the left killed comedy or worked hard at it, But that becomes the entire focal point, right? They're not really interested in talking about, they talk about saving democracy, but when you go on the attack against the rally in New York and the joke, you know, and try, they're not talking about issues, right? They're demonizing us, right? I read an article yesterday where there was titled, the Trump Rogan interview is a waste of 3 hours, you know, regardless of how you feel about it. I mean, even if you don't like Trump, I mean, there's value in learning more about him as a person. And it's obviously going to be treated by history as a super important kind of inflection point in the history of media. So then to come out and tell people it's just a waste of time altogether, and it's like, so you're basically telling people not to think for themselves, right? You know, they don't want people to think for themselves. They don't care in democracy. This is all about, you know, securing power at all costs, damn the consequences.
AO, for someone to say that one of the most famous people on earth ever in Donald Trump going on the most watched podcast that's ever been recorded. Joe Rogan is the godfather of podcasting. You can't deny it. It's a fact. Whether you like him or you don't, he is. He was the first one to make podcasting mainstream. So for the most famous person arguably in history, besides Jesus Christ himself, maybe Elon Musk, right? There's some arguable other personalities. Donald Trump is up there, and he's standing and running for the second or maybe even third term of being president of the largest freedom-based country in the planet. To go on a Joe Rogan and act like that's a waste of 3 hours of your day is asinine.
Right. Right. So what's the only logical conclusion? I mean, they're basically trying, I mean, they're just trying to get people not to watch it.
Right.
Attempting to get people not to allow Trump to humanize himself. Right. So instead of competing, you know, in the greater marketplace of ideas, it's about keeping people in the dark, demonizing the other team and saying, hey, we're the ones trying to save democracy. You know, the threats against Trump are off. I mean, they're obviously unhinged, but it's crazy.
You know, it's interesting, Rambo. I don't want to get too far ahead.
You sound way better, bro, by the way.
Yeah, you know what? It was the headset was picking it up. I couldn't split the two apart, but yeah. So that's better?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to skip ahead to what happened yesterday because I know there's other things we want to get to first. But what I think is happening today, in the headlines, which kind of piggybacks off of what AO was just saying, this massive narrative, which is front page. Listen, I think the New York Post, given that it's owned by News Corp, and we know from the drops early on that Q has inferred for years that they've had a lean into Fox News and News Corp by extension for a lot longer than we think. Goes back years. I think the New York Post personally is a great bellwether for the white hat influenced media operation, in my opinion. So when you go on there today, and the headline is about how MSNBC was the entire time making the rally yesterday look like a Hitler rally from, you know, the parallel to the 1938, 1939. But what I find interesting is the way it's really starting to take hold amongst the populace that they're full of shit. And I personally believe, I don't know where the line is. I tend to think it's a lot bigger than we realize. But I believe at this point that the outlets like CNN and MSNBC, the Atlantic, New York Magazine to a lesser degree, the Huffington Post, like all the usual suspects, that the powers in control, the white hats, I believe their goal at this point is to force everyone to reach the same conclusion we do about the left media and Mockingbird media organically. So you cannot tell them, you have to show them. And I think when you see what went on yesterday, and again, I don't want to get into the rally yet, but my point being, it connects to what AO is saying. I think that there's a certain group of controlled media on the left that I believe we have a strength that we're pulling the strings on. And there is an active operation to get the normies to see it for themselves. They have to first reach the conclusion that Trump isn't bad, then reach the conclusion that Trump is good, and then understand and see for themselves where the media will go completely out of their way to a ridiculous level to stop him. And so I that's what I think is happening in many cases. I don't know where the split is, but when I look at some of these things, especially what's happening, like I said today, that's what I believe. I know many people have always thought from the beginning, well, one day the White Hats are just going to flip the media and they're going to tell the truth. No, I think that's happening in a different way. But I think some of these outlets are being made to be completely off the charts ridiculous. So even the most black-pilled, brainwashed normie will eventually start to see something doesn't make sense here.
Right.
You guys are going to make me switch up my order, but I don't care because it goes with the conversation and that's how the show works. So let me just do the last point of this, and I want to show something that completely adds to what you guys are saying before you show your clip, Dave. So the last point in this is the child abductions of satanic rituals, i.e. Haiti. Haiti has been in the news like crazy, right? They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. You guys all saw me dance at the Reawaken tour, right? To the song, which has become pop culture. That's why I danced to it while I was with all you guys. So Haiti is literally also in this 29 reference. Every single point that he made in that drop is relevant. Now, to add to your point, sorry, I just wanted to finish that one before I went anywhere with it. Hold on, because Dave and AO, what you guys are talking about is literally happening before our eyes. So I believe that we've been getting a history lesson from day one, right? It's always everything that's happening with Donald Trump is not only precedent setting in the future, it's also a history lesson. And what you guys just said adds up to everything I saw in this MSDNC clip with Morning Ho this morning. Look, let me ask you guys this. Who was the first president to say make America great again? Anybody speak up?
Wasn't it Reagan?
Yes, it was. Who was the last president to get a failed assassination attempt on him?
Reagan.
It was Reagan, right?
Yeah.
So who was the last one to win 49 states and bring the whole country together?
Reagan, 84.
Right. Watch this.
What was said at Donald Trump's rally last night. Let's bring in managing editor of the Bulwark, Sam Stein, and MSNBC contributor and author of the book, How the Right Lost Its Mind, Charlie Sykes. Well, Charlie, your book, it book title just says it all this morning. Again, I everything that Ronald Reagan taught this Republican Party, our Republican Party, that led him to winning 49 states, that led him to a landslide victory in 1980, that allowed him to bring Americans together as he led the Reagan Revolution. All of those ideas were thrown out years ago as being irrelevant. They seem more relevant today than ever before, because if you want to reach an older man in Wisconsin, that's not how you do it. You do it by talking the way Reagan talked. And when it comes to immigration, talking about a country that opens its doors to the world, who still believes that it is a city shining on a hill brightly for all the world to see. That's it. Charlie, that's how we used to think when our Republican Party was our Republican Party, when it was Reagan's Republican Party.
You know, for the last 9 years, I have used that passage and read it to folks who are saying that somehow this is a continuation of conservatism, or what Ronald Reagan talked about. Ronald Reagan, you can't even imagine those words being spoken in Madison Square Garden last night. You can't even imagine any speaker saying anything remotely like that. Now, you asked an interesting question. What do the parents of Puerto Rican children tell their children about what they heard last night? What does any parent tell any child about the kind of hate and vulgarity and offensiveness and racism and insults that you heard last night? This is a hell of hell of a closing argument that we're seeing right now, and I hope that we don't get numb to it, because what you saw last night was not a disciplined or a coherent campaign. This is Donald Trump's id, and we need to take that both literally and seriously. The threats he's making, the insults, the culture he's created, and I guess that's really what struck me. And to Mika's point, you know, that after 9 years, he has created a political culture where you can fill Madison Square Garden with people who listen to that and say, yeah, that's the message I like. 47% of Americans think, yes, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with the mass deportations. I'm okay with the attacks on Latinos and Puerto Ricans and Jews, and, you know, talking about pimps and the attacks on Kamala Harris. I mean, this is a dark moment that we have right now, but I'm really glad that you're playing kind of the split screen of the closing arguments of the two campaigns, because I don't think the contrast could be much starker.
So beer at the parade, I already made the post this morning and I dubbed it Panic in the MSDNC. So I got you. I'm going to let you guys, if you don't mind, if you both watch that clip, my camera's lagging and I don't want it to go into the videos that I'm going to show. So I'm going to let you guys talk on that clip and back out, and I'll be right back. I want to clear everything and come back in. So if you guys want to talk about that clip before we get into the actual rally last night, please, by all means.
Go ahead. You know, but that comes to mind is the idea of how people perceive this and how they engage it. They have to choose to. And what I mean by that is that you can't, it's like trying to red pill someone. You can't force things on them. We all had an aha moment, you know, when you kind of like realize the scope of this and the deception, and, you know, helping everybody have that self-discovery for themselves. It's a very personal thing everybody has to have. But, you know, it's important, you know, they don't want people to see any alternative to have that opinion. But I agree. I mean, I think a lot of this is done to turn the needle, whereas, you know, people can see it for what it is. Right? They have to have that experience when they see it, right? And when you see how they're reacting, just listen to their words. I mean, these are the most hateful, spiteful people that throw out insults, burn down cities, cheer them on, defund the cops. But we're the problem, right? It's 180-degree difference. You know, it's Saul Alinsky. But they expose their agenda through their words. And back to the self-discovery, people, you know, juxtapose their words against what they see. And when what they see doesn't map to that, then it exposes the fraud. And I would agree, a lot of that is in play right now.
Yeah, that's, you know, and people, I think people still get triggered by it because they're not thinking about the net effect, which is exactly what you just outlined, right? At the end of the day, we all are in a certain camp, so we can speculate about who's pulling the strings or who's not. But realistically, it doesn't matter, because the net effect, which is what you just outlined, is what's happening. And, you know, if I posted last night the numbers of the people that watched last night, I'm estimating there's probably north of 200 million people that watched that live, because I went on when he got started. I mean, there was 7 million people watching live on X on right side. There was almost 5 million on Trump's channel. There was almost 3 million on Sky News Australia watching live, and Newsmax 2 million. The number. So let's dive into this, right? So what's the net effect of what's going to happen if we say, let's just say, argument's sake, it's 200 million people, which I think when you look at X and start adding up the numbers, I'm not even getting into broadcast television, I think that's probably a very safe number to work off of. So 200 million people watched that. They saw it with their own eyes. They saw the love. They saw the truth. They didn't see Hitler and hateful rhetoric. It's not there. It simply isn't there. So what's the net effect? Those 200 million people are now opening, the normies are opening the newspaper today. And they're seeing everyone focus on MSNBC, and they're literally getting to reach their own conclusion, just like you outlined, saying they are flat out lying to an extreme. And in my humble opinion, I've been saying this for over a year on podcasts. It is one thing for everyone to learn what has been done to them. It is a whole nother thing to learn how it was done to them. And in my humble opinion, with this operation, the latter, the how, is far more important to preventing this from happening again in the future than learning what was done. It's learning the how. You have to see how this stuff works in real time for yourself, to make sure and inject that, embed that into multiple generations of mass consciousness so that it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, this whole thing was a waste of time.
Good point.
Yeah. I actually completely agree with that. I heard you guys the whole time. I put it on my phone to listen. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to transfer into what I believe was the most epic rally that's ever taken place. I think it was the exclamation point at 9 days out, today being 8, of fifth generation warfare that you could ever have. And I'd like to break that down here in just a second. Let me take the time quick to say thank you to one more sponsor and the people that have supported the show, and then we'll get into that. So here is, let me play this quick.
At Tulip Blooms, we believe in more than just skincare. We believe in freedom. We believe in natural products made by Americans, for Americans, using nature's finest ingredients to help you feel your best. Each Tulip Blooms product is carefully crafted with pure organic ingredients, no chemicals, no compromises, just clean, natural skincare you can trust. We know what matters to you: freedom, family, and a healthy way of life. That's why every purchase at tulipblooms.shop supports American jobs and a brand that values your freedom. Join the movement. Support a company that believes what you believe in. Visit tulipblooms.shop today. Tulip Blooms, natural skincare for patriots. Promo code Rambo for 10% off.
Nice.
I freaking love that dude.
I love the voice.
He's so good. Hey, do you know Patrick at all?
Not directly, no.
Dude, I keep joking with the Badlands guys that I hang out with. I'm like, he needs a 3 a.m. infomercial so he can sell sham wows like that voice.
But wait, there's more.
I freaking love that.
The Anon shopping network.
Yeah. Just so you guys are all aware, it's not just tulipblooms.shop, it's also epicminerals.net. So there's 2 websites that you can go to and use promo code Rambo to get 10% off of, honestly, some really good products. If you're sick of being toxified by what it is that the mainstream's trying to sell you, these are websites you can go to buy your soaps, to buy your lotions, to buy products that are American made by patriots that will not make you sick, period. Right? Go support. So there's
it's
that.
kind of like what we're talking about. You know, these people have been micro poisoning us through our products they sell us and through our water, everything for our whole lives. So part of that discovery, that aha thing, is when you realize that and you think about all the products you put on your skin, you brush your teeth with, and you drink. That's part of the waking up process. And, you know, to be honest with you, I think we can all agree that it sucks, right? I like to talk about the fact that we're not happy that these conspiracies are true, right? Have vested interest of them and help bring them to fruition, exposure to the people. But yeah, I mean, just a stark reminder of that. So once again, you know, how we interact with each other is also about, you know, how we are healthy spiritually, mentally, physically. I mean, I think it's all one thing.
I couldn't agree more. All right, you guys ready to get excited? Because that's what happened last night. I mean, let's just be honest. If you weren't excited about Donald Trump and you even saw a clip, a 30-second clip of 6 hours worth of a rally last night, you got excited. That's my opinion. That's what I think happened. So I'm going to start with what I think is my favorite of the beginning. Okay, Tony Hinchcliffe was really cool. I don't think that the whole conservative movement thought he was cool, but I loved Kill Tony Hinchcliffe. I thought he was really funny when he said that there's a floating pile of trash in the ocean and it's Puerto Rico. I thought that was really funny. But anyway, I'm not gonna play Tony Hinchcliffe because not everybody loved it, but I'm gonna play this. So this is the artist dude, the dude that does a bunch of artwork, conservative artist, and he has stood up against the mainstream for so long. And this was the first time my hair raised when I started watching the 6 hours, don't tell my boss because I was at work, rally that happened last night.
The art world didn't like me because I like God, girls, and guns. The art world didn't like me because I refused to succumb to the America-hating isms of their agenda. And they said I'd never make it in their world. Fast forward 35 years, I'm standing on the greatest stage in the world. In the greatest city in the world, in the greatest country in the world, and I'm opening up for the greatest fucking president in the world.
So my clip didn't include it, but right before he started doing his painting, he gave one more big shout out to the left creative community, and he shot him all the bird, and then he started painting. It was awesome.
Epic.
It was awesome.
Scott Libido is a legend, man. He is an absolute legend.
You could hear that enthusiasm too, right, in his voice and returned in the crowd. But it's part of that palpable feeling, that energy that's going on, you know, that rising tide kind of thing. But I don't know if you guys can feel it. I can feel it. You could hear it in his words. You could hear the crowd respond, and you can't astroturf that. You can't bust people into events and have that kind of enthusiasm, which is why you see people like Beyonce rolled out, right? But it's fake. Trump doesn't need something like that. He has people speak at his event, sure, but he's the headliner always.
Ayo, did you see the narrative they painted with Beyonce showing up and then the crowd getting mad? I don't know if the crowd... Look, when I watched Kamala speaking, it seemed like Trump supporters showed up and she cast them aside. But when you watched some of the camera angles from the audience, what it seemed like was Beyonce fans were pissed that they were tricked to go to this rally because they thought she was going to perform. Did you see that?
Bait and switch. Bait and switch.
Yeah, right. So Donald Trump does freaking Madison Square Garden, which we would typically, historically think is enemy territory. And Donald Trump goes there with a lot of big names. Let's just be honest. It was epic the whole way through. And sells out and has blocks shut down. Dave, I want to ask you about this because you brought it up yesterday. How is it, AO? And I'll let Dave go further than I'm going to. But how is it that if the Southern District of New York and the governor of New York City and all of them want to demonize and put Donald Trump in jail, how did he get the permits to shut down, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks of New York City, of Manhattan?
Right. If no one's familiar with New York City blocks, they're not like your average normal town blocks, right? These things are massive. That's a huge amount of space. But the overflow crowd, I don't know. Did we get final numbers on that? So we know 20,000 are in there, but there was a lot more people outside.
Hold on, Dave. Don Jr. said 200 tried to get, almost 200 tried to get in, is what Don Jr. said.
Wow. That's just amazing.
I got so much to say about yesterday, having grown up there. That's the station I walk through every day on my way to work. So I'm intimately familiar. Not to correct you, Rambo. It's a much larger area than just 8 blocks. You're talking about probably the affected area in each direction. When you combine it, it's probably more like 20 or 30 city blocks.
Yes.
And yeah, I put that post out yesterday. I don't know what was so special about it. It got a lot of eyeballs. And that's the question I asked. I said, can you please explain to me how on one hand we're being told that everything you just said, and yet on the other hand, the city was able to allocate that had to cost millions upon millions of dollars. Okay. In addition to putting on extra, there's 1, 2, 3 rail lines and I don't know, 12 subway lines that go through Penn Station, all of which had to be monitored, protected. They had to add extra service because Sunday is not a regular schedule for Long Island Railroad and Jersey Transit. Security, fencing, overtime, all of that. And the only semi-logical answer I got from anybody, with all due respect, was, well, no, Eric Adams got arrested, or, he got indicted, so he's on Trump's side now. Listen, let me explain something to people that don't understand New York City or other big cities. The mayor does not have the power to unilaterally do that, period. It's just a microcosm of DC. It's the swamp. So there's bureaucrats, there's layers of transit unions and boards and all these other, there's a million different things that would have stopped this dead in its tracks before it even got to the planning stages. And even if you don't believe that, well, then explain to me why there's no headline about somebody saying, well, the Trump campaign had to kick in $20 million to pay for their own security because the city's over budget. There's so many different aspects that you can just logically infer. There's no effing way this happens. And those narratives, in my humble opinion, can't coexist. You can't have the narrative we're being told that they're trying to do everything they can to put him in jail, civilly sue him, take him out, all these other things. But yet the same behemoth of New York City, because of one dude, Eric Adams, pushed all this through. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way.
I want to take it a step further. Donald Trump predicted, when the mayor of New York City said a certain thing, that he would be indicted. Okay. I want everybody to think about that situation for just a minute. So the mayor has not yet been indicted. However, almost every single politician surrounding that man has either resigned, been indicted, or been fired. I tend to believe that dude might be part of the sting operation.
Yeah, so many layers to this, right?
1000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And Rambo, he was indicted.
Was he?
Oh yeah, he was formally indicted. Yes. Yep.
Okay, you're right. But a bunch of them resigned or quit or were fired, and he is standing up against it. Right? Am I right in that?
Well, then the narrative was that he stood up against the migrants, and that because of that they rung him up on bogus charge of taking bribes and things like that. And then you've seen, leading up to that, you saw, like you said, an unprecedented, the chief of police or the commissioner, one of those two positions, stepped down, his deputy, like all these other people. It's a house cleaning. And yeah, without getting too far into it, if you ask me, for a million reasons, if you go back and look at the cartoon, let's face it, Joe and AO, all these different psyops we're watching, don't they all have a little bit of a cartoonish aspect to them, right? They do.
Right.
And if you actually go back and look at Adams, he's literally been like a cartoon character for the last 3 years. Wearing a sequin, he wore a sequin blazer out to the nightclubs, and all these things that, why you wouldn't do that. So I tend to agree, and I think what you brought up, Rambo, that now that Trump's kind of coming full circle, and he mentioned it in his speech yesterday, he's all but inferring that, yeah, whether he was a bad guy turned good or part of it the whole time, he's clearly inferring that he's in on it. And you'd have to say that it would be pretty difficult to run the operations that we're inferring are happening without having, to some degree, controlled or read in the mayor of the largest city in the country.
Right.
You have to have done that.
Do you have thoughts?
No doubt. And then you think about the gravity of the moment, what's at stake. and the crimes involved, and you look at somebody like Mayor Adams or how many others, the consequences of their actions is, extreme. We're talking treason, et cetera. And I think that's a motivating factor for people who maybe they were blackmailed to begin with, maybe they were involved knowingly, but they say no deals. But I think that, just personally, I just think that when I think of deals, they might be talking about are different than what we're talking about, because we would have had to use assets, right, in the field, turn them where, they basically would plead guilty. So we don't even know if some of the court proceedings and things are real. It's just a kind of thing on my opinion. But yeah, what's live and what's Memorex, right? I guess it really comes down to that. How far upstream does our hand of influence go? And I would argue it goes probably even further than we think.
Yeah, and the Q did. It's interesting you brought up that drop, because people point to that no deals drop, and then Rambo, do you mind just popping up my screen for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
Because what AO is saying is right. Like it goes both ways, because this third paragraph. Well, first of all, it starts up by saying there are more good people than bad. Wizards and warlocks will not allow another satanic POS control our country, et cetera, et cetera. They're talking about the control, but then when you get down here, the corruption that will come out is so serious that deals must be cut for people to walk away. Otherwise, 70% of elected politicians would be in jail. You were seeing it already begin. A deep cleansing is occurring, and the prevention and defense of pure evil is occurring on a daily basis. They never thought they were going to lose control of the presidency, not just Democrats, and thought they had control since making past mistakes. JFK and Reagan, Godspeed Patriots, P.S. Soros is targeted. So, yeah, there's the drops that say no deals, but then this is one of the earliest drops, drop 15, that, by the way, Trump and Scavino have hit quite a few times over the last couple of years with their comms. And I think it's a great example.
Hindsight becomes 2020, right? And AO, I've never gotten to say this to you, I think, but when certain drops say no deals, it seems to become, like I said, hindsight's 2020. I start to think that the no deals thing was when they came to prosecuting and indicting Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to take a deal. Donald Trump's going to fight you to the end because he's right. So when they say no deals, sure, I'd love for there to be no deals against anybody in the deep state or the Epsteins or whatever. These people need to fry, right? My emotions in a fifth generation warfare state that have been activated by the information being given to me want them all to fry. Nobody should be able to get out alive. However, what we've watched play out in front of us is the largest military intelligence operation that anyone's ever seen. And I'm sorry if you don't agree with me, but that's what I see. And if that's what I see, then you have to understand that one leads to another, which leads to another. And they are going to sing on the next with only the hope that they would get just slightly less of a penalty than they would have if they shut their mouths. Their deals, I'm an ex-drug addict. When you get arrested for drugs, they ask you every time who sold it to you, right? Every time. And every time they ask you that question with the potential offer that you won't get as much time as you would have. It's just how legal operations work. When he says
especially
no deals,
RICO cases,
of course,
right?
But no deals. Donald Trump stood in the face of everybody. I'm not taking a deal. I'm fighting you. F you.
It's a good reminder that when you read the drops, what comes to you first isn't necessarily what it means, and there's also double meanings. But yeah, I mean that's definitely a possibility. But I agree. I mean, there's no way to do this, and so good examples are Dushenko, Klein-Smith, and Sussman, right? Are they involved and guilty to some degree? Yeah, but does it matter, right? Does anyone think those are shot collars, right? So getting them to turn on the people, like getting Robbie Mook on the stand to admit Hillary Clinton was the behind the Steele dossier. Was that the Dushenko trial?
I believe
was
so.
Him or Sussman, but I mean, I think that was the point, right? So we just can't assume that there's no deals just simply because, if we believe this to be the largest RICO case ever, that's how RICO cases work, and then they work their way up. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right, so there's a thing that Dave said a couple conversations back where he talked about the cartoon narrative and wearing sequence, and so I'm playing this just for you guys. I think that it's I'm very happy in my relationship. Dave, I know that you just think that this was a really nice part in the rally yesterday. Ao, I'm sure that you just, except for that, let's watch this. This wasn't every man's favorite moment in the rally yesterday, except for maybe Melania.
Ludacris going in on the verse, 'cause I never been defeated and I won't stop now. Keep your hands up, get them in the sky for the homies that ain't making it in my post lockdown. I never went nowhere. What they say in Luda's back. Blame it on that contour. The hood call it Luda yak. And I'm on this foolish track. So I spit my foolish flow. My hands go up and down. Like strippers' booties go. My verse is chilly serving. Tight like a million birds. Last time on the
Love the energy.
I'm on the original version.
You see, I put my MAGA jacket to trigger Hillary Clinton.
That's what I
There
noticed.
you go, Hill.
Jacket.
Are you ready to make history tonight and make some liberals cry?
The giant
world
awakens.
first got to know me on the courtroom steps right here in New York City.
That's not where I got to know her. Hold on, I'm gonna take her down. Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember the first time I was truly introduced to Alina Habba? Do you guys? When was the first? Let me ask this. Ao, when's the first time you heard Alina Habba's name?
Oh boy, out of the blue. I don't know. It hasn't been that long. 2 years. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Dave,
I think last summer when he first started getting indicted.
I'm gonna tell you guys.
I just want to say I did not watch that clip 17 times at all. And I'm sure that Forpog picked her because she's a great attorney.
I'm gonna tell you there's a conspiracy that goes along with Alina Habba, and if you guys haven't seen it, you're about to.
Let's do it.
All right. So Alina Habba was mentioned by Kash Patel on his Truth Social account, and she was named as, hold on, bear with me. I don't want to tell you yet. I want to show you. Okay. So let me get this up on the Telegram page that I use for the show. Bear with me. That'll be worth it. I promise. So
The other question people should ask themselves is how many attorneys has Trump been through over the last 3 years? And is that normal? Is that normal? What happened to Christina Bobb? She just kind of disappeared. Used to work for Homeland Security. That's kind of interesting.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been through a lot, good and bad, right?
Do you guys remember this? So the Q account retruthed Kash Patel. Kash Patel said, "What on earth could this guy and Q's heiress be doing in northern Jersey down the street from Bedminster at Alina Habba causing mischief?" What the heck?
No, she's just a really good attorney, Rambo.
And all the connections are that's just happenstance, man.
Rambo, wasn't that, I think it was you that said this, and I haven't verified. What, didn't the Q account get onboarded to True Social before Trump?
Yes,
Is that correct?
Oh. Yes, sir.
I think it was a month before. Yeah. And you have to believe that they would have, that if they left that open for anyone to grab, it would have been, obviously. So it just makes sense that it was parked ahead of time.
Beer's calling me a fed, bro.
I love me some beer at the parade.
And don't forget True Social. When was True Social registered as a domain? 2011.
Right.
That's a long time ago.
If you guys remember, there was more that came with that post. Okay, so I'm gonna say it all because I think it's all pertinent. You have to look at everything. Greg Phillips was heavy at the time. Cash Patel, Alina Habba being called the accused heiress. Greg Phillips went on the MG show and all that stuff. Friday Flannels. That was the very beginning of True Social. I didn't get on there during that time because I had an Android. I feel like somebody helped me by not being involved in that period of time because mass confusion. Sure, the conversation kept going, but mass confusion as far as the real truth. I'm not sitting here trying to call anybody out. All I'm saying is I feel like the slow roll that they did on the True Social might have been intentional.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are being done intentionally to kind of maneuver us. I think even the return from True Social to Twitter, or in this case X, was never supposed to happen. But I look at the timing of everything, and we don't have to get into it now, but it's like the release of Honey Badger, right? Ban is getting released tomorrow, 1 week before the election,
Right.
you know, which is only going to make his voice amplify 1,000 times larger when he gets out. But it's just another case of happenstance, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Ayo, you're 100% right. And I'm not knocking True Social. I will continue to post there, except for
Absolutely.
It looked like the same thing that Gab and Parler and I can't even remember the other ones. They were all these places to go sharpen your weapons, and the intent was always to go back to the battlefield, which is Twitter.
Yeah. I consider
And
True
so-
Social like home base, but personally, my view is like I do X. People do TikTok or whatever people choose to do, but I think X is the front line, the best representation of it.
Rambo, I forgot about that. The whole onboarding process into True Social. I mean, yeah, people should really ask themselves why some people waited like a month, 2 months to get onboarded on to True Social, and has that ever happened with another platform? And I probably might never be able to prove this, but I would logically argue that that's not just an algorithmic vetting process to make sure there's not duplicate IPs or bots or whatever. I've always kind of theorized there was a way more of a vetting process that probably went on than we'll ever know about. One other thing that's always interesting to point out with True Social is if you go on Getter, and I'm not a computer coder, but I recognize patterns. When you look at Getter and look at True Social, it was clearly built by the same person. Clearly. Literally built. I would bet my life on that. It literally looks almost the same with different colors. And I also always found it interesting that when Getter launched, we were being told that the narrative we were being given was that Jason Miller is the CEO of Getter, and he was on Bannon all the time or whatever. Yet, where was Jason Miller every day virtually when Trump was flying? On the plane with Donald Trump.
Right.
Somebody explain that to me. You have the CEO of a competitor on your plane with you every day as your senior advisor? Okay. I guess.
Well, okay, so that leads right into what I want to explain to you guys about my experience going to see Elon Musk 2 nights ago. Okay, here's the story. Kim put in for his PAC. You know what? Let me go one step even further backwards. During the Reawaken tour, young kid came up to me while I was talking honestly to you, Dave. I think Abs and his wife were there. There was 2 other women with us. We were all sitting. Mark was sleeping on the chairs, right? Your partner, Mark, was sleeping on the chairs. And some kid came up to me and he said, I'm trying to feed my family. Times are tough right now. If you sign this PAC, I'll make a little bit of money. The PAC is Elon Musk's. He showed me all the stuff that goes with it. It looked legit. So I was like, let me read it first, please. And I read it and then I signed it digitally. And then Kim, I told her about it and she went on and she signed it. And then we found out that Elon Musk was paying $1 million for the last 17 days leading up to the election. So Elon
Ah,
Musk was paying $17 million out to people on, it was to make the mainstream media go crazy was the idea, right? And so 17 million dollars was going to get paid to random people that signed this pact. I signed it without knowing that. Kim signed it without knowing it. But when Kim did it, she saw that there was an option to request a ticket for the town hall that was going to be held in Lancaster. Well, Lancaster is only an hour from my house. It's not even a half an hour from my work. So Kim was like, yeah, okay, I'll request a ticket. Let's see what happens. Well, she calls me the day of while I'm at work and says, I got the ticket. What do I do? I'm like, you go. It's Elon Musk. It's an opportunity of a lifetime in the middle of the operation that we're witnessing take place. I'm not going to be mad at you. Go to the freaking go. I'll put it out on Twitter. I'll ask people what questions we want to ask them. Go there, videotape, say hi to people, interview people, and tell us what Elon says. And she's like, why don't you just try? And I'm like, okay. So I went back on there and I signed the pack for the second time, and I requested the ticket this time. And I was talking to her like 3-4 hours later around lunchtime, and I was like, I never got a response. It's kind of crazy to think I will. It's the day of. And then I hung up with her, and the text message came through. You're in. I was like, whoa, I'm going to see Elon Musk. So I call her back quick. All right, I got the ticket, but I don't leave work till 6. It doesn't start till 7. And she's like, well, I'll just go. I'll try to save you a seat. I'm sure I'll have to fight people, but I will. And you try to get here as fast as you can. So I did our turnover at work, and I left as fast as I could. I think it was like 6 o'clock. I jump in the car and I start driving as fast as I can. And I get there, and the line is literally still. It's 7 o'clock already, and the line's 4 blocks long. So I jump in the back of the line, and I'm talking to people. Hey, you on Twitter? You on Twitter? I'm like, this isn't like a Trump rally. All these people got to be on X, right? So I met a few people that knew my account. I met a few people and I followed them, whatever. I go through the whole line and I get up to the front and they shut the doors. I'm like 5 people from the door. And I'm
classic.
like, well, I lied to the lady a little bit. And I'm like, hey, so my wife's in there. She's got my seat. My seat's right next to her. So I told her, I just left to use the restroom. Am I really not allowed to go back into my seat? And she was like, have your girl send me a picture of the seats. So I called her on video chat, and I'm like, here she is. And she's in the 4th row, literally right in front of the stage. And she's like, hey, I'm standing up. I'm waving at the door. The lady opens the door and sees Kim waving. She's like, all right, follow me. She escorts
Awesome.
me to the 4th row, bro. So
Right
now
on, man.
dude, it was so cool. So I'm in the 4th row. I'll just show you. I'll just show you. Check this out, dude. This is how close I was to Elon Musk. This is my phone.
Start seeing that our country is not, when they keep saying democracy, it's a constitutional republic. If you don't mind, to keep reminding people that we are a republic. We're free. We're free because of Christ, Jesus, and we're free because of the men and women who died and shed blood for this country. That's absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of people died to make this country what it is today. A lot of people died. Absolutely, amen. And man, people take it for granted, you know. So,
Dude, when I heard Elon Musk say amen, I've followed Elon Musk. I know lots of people are mad at him. He wears the black hat, right? It's really kind of symbolic for what people think of him prior to this operation. When I hear Elon Musk say amen to a dude that owns a barbershop in Lancaster telling him that Jesus is king, and I hear Elon Musk say amen and raise his fist with him, it literally raised the hair on my arms.
Right. Yeah, I look at somebody like Elon Musk, and he's basically the Howard Hughes of our generation, right? Obviously an iconic figure. And so the chances of the globalist cabal not having their claws in him prior to all of this is about zero, right? Since they infiltrate and take over everything, blackmail, etc. But to me, it just makes sense that he would be one of the people that would be targeted to use, like, how would you like to free yourself, right? And serve in this capacity as kind of a public face of what I think is going on behind the scenes with the military and Space Force. Hence SpaceX and Starlink, which I think are basically ours, along with X as a public utility. We just don't know about it yet. That's my opinion, but yeah, pretty amazing.
Dave, do you have thoughts on that?
I mean, I it's exactly what I think many of us have been saying for a long time. And I think the important thing to point out, to add to what AO just said, is that key of having the cabal having their claws into somebody. And listen, not to cross-pollinate the conversation, but, to some extent, you could say the same thing about a lot of people, even maybe like an Alex Jones, although I'm aware of what the Q drops say, right? But if you read the Q drops on some of these people, even like Alex Jones talks about, it literally talks about free speech systems, his company and what it's done and things like that. But the point being with all of this is we don't know. We demonize everybody, and this goes back to that 70% conversation we have. Well, 70%, they all got to go. No, you don't know that. If somebody, God forbid, were to call Rambo right now or me and tell me that if I don't do XYZ on my podcast, that they're going to murder my family, what do you do in that situation?
And that's not even hyperbole.
Right. Exactly. So the point is, like, when we try to, and it's interesting because Rambo, can I play a clip while we're talking about this? This is actually probably one of my favorite clips from last night. Donald Trump talking about hats. If you could pop that up.
Never seen anybody wear it. I see the red hats all over the place. The white hats, I see all different, but I never saw black. But he liked the black. He's a little different.
White hats, the black hats. I even, like I said, I even had kind of a semi-normie friend caught that one. But it's interesting that he was talking about that. I should have put the whole clip together, but the point was he was referring to Elon Musk. He was saying Elon Musk, he wears a black hat, but there's lots of red hats and white hats. I think he's signaling exactly what we're talking about here. And I'm just speculating, but we know that nothing happens by accident. And that's the point. AO's analysis, as usual, is spot on. That's what people got to remember. It's not a matter of black or white. In most cases, it's gray. In most cases, it's, and I would argue, and maybe we'll never know this, but I argue even when it comes to Congress to some degree, especially as we've been cleaning things out, that, and Q tells us there are more good people than bad, right? So then when you connect all the dots, the reality of the situation is it's not that 70% of these people woke up and said, let me, murder babies and screw the American people in every way possible. The majority of them, I would argue, probably had benign or good intentions for what they wanted to do, and they were hijacked. So we have to be careful about painting a brush on everybody as being, they got to go, they got to die, they got to get hanged. You don't know how they ended up in the situation they're in. And I found it interesting, like I said, that Trump went off on a little tangent about the hats as he was talking about Elon Musk wearing a black hat.
Mm-hmm.
Could be nothing.
Absolutely. Well, he himself put on the black hat, talked about the 10 days, right?
Yeah.
Friday.
We have these assumptions about who's good and who's bad. And, it kind of highlights the fact that we really don't know. I in my heart of hearts, I believe Trump is good and some of the people directly around him. But as he highlighted it, not knowing who he had brought into his administration during the Rogan, we don't know what we don't know, right? We have double agents, we have Judas goats involved, familiar with the term. So what's live and what we're seeing, as we know, is intentional down to the point of control, right? If you don't have control, this could spin out of it really quickly. But yeah, I mean, from the standpoint of who did they have their claws into? Well, who didn't they? Why would evil people running the world's largest criminal enterprise in human civilization's history leave any crumb on the table? They wouldn't.
Well, and I could argue that um, we keep dissecting the information we've been given up to the current moment, and every single day, now that we're down to 8 days, is giving us more and more of those crumbs and information, and every day it changes. And so, with that, with what you're saying, I want to go into playing with the story headline. So the rest of the clips I have are from last night's rally. Okay. I want to go through it and just feel the excitement, right? I want to see what you guys felt in these moments, because I believe, as I gave AO credit for earlier, how does it make you feel? Last night, I believe, made not only the country as a whole, but globally. If you went to every platform that was showing this, there was an absurd amount of numbers. Millions on Trump's YouTube, millions on Trump's Twitter, millions on Elon's Twitter. I mean, the small little Rumble accounts like mine, hundreds of thousands of people were watching.
Rambo,
the whole world. Go ahead.
Not interject real quick, but just to give people an idea, because I think you were off, you had popped off. AO and I kind of went through some of the numbers. It was like it was almost 7 million on Right Side's X account, 5 million on Trump, almost 3 million on Sky News Australia. Dude, Benny Johnson had 1.8 million people watching his X live stream. So I said conservatively, I think it's very safe to say there's well over 200 to a quarter of a billion people watch that, because I only went through like 10 accounts and got to like 30 million people. And that's without broadcast television and restreams and Rumble and all this other stuff. So the numbers are beyond staggering, dude.
Mind-boggling.
I'm going to give you a microcosm of it. Rambo and Frens started 7 months ago. There's 2,500 people hanging out with us right now on Rumble.
Awesome.
2,500 people are hanging out with Awakened Outlaw, Dave from NewsTreason, and Joe Rambo on Rumble. The Great Awakening is real.
And you have another 2,300 on X right now, too. Rambo.
Thank you. Guys, do me a favor. If you feel as if you are a part of the Great Awakening, hit the thumbs up, put us on the leaderboard, and get more people involved in the conversation. Continue the Great Awakening. All right, so let's start watching some of these clips. Let's just I just have a handful. I don't know, 7 or so. You guys have a little bit of time. It's 1:45. You have a little bit of time, Leo, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to start. I have 2 more that are before Trump, and then we'll go through some of the Trump clips. So just take raw takes on each one of these clips. Let's literally feel the excitement that they gave us last night. So here is, let's not start with this one. Let's do that one second. Okay. This, for me, I don't know. Was anybody a wrestling fan when they were kids? Okay. Does everyone know who Vincent Kennedy is? Has everyone seen Donald Trump on WWE or WWF, whatever it was at the time? Dude,
absolutely.
The Hulkster is a freaking hype man, and he killed it last night. Can we just admit that? Like, let's just have fun with this for a minute. He was going to leave, and he heard the song. It's freaking awesome.
One of my, I would say this is one of my favorite moments from yesterday.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. It's Trump's love of wrestling and kayfabe.
Right.
Exactly. And it was literally probably one of the, I would say it was one of the 5 or 6 loudest moments too, because like people at the Garden understand the relationship of Hulk Hogan to that building.
Okay, so somebody said it later, like, okay, the Beatles played here, Elvis played here, Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik in this building.
Yep.
So many Nazis. The Democrats have held their national convention there too, right? So
Rambo, it's funny you were talking about Reagan in 1984. This might be a coincidence. What year did Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik in Madison
Was
Square
it
Garden?
84?
1984. Yeah.
Boom. Booms. I freaking love this shit.
It's gonna hit somebody with a chair.
Dude.
Yeah.
Raw emotion, man.
All right, look. He beat the Iron Sheik in that building. He is the Hulkster is an American broad. Okay. And then they had people like Dr. Phil, who all of America's housewives love.
Rambo, do you have the clip of Hulk talking about Kamala?
I don't. Do you?
Here.
Go ahead. If you have it, put it up.
Listen to this.
You know, when I hear my president and our president, Donald Trump, speak, he sounds for real, brother. He sounds like he has a heart of gold that's all for the USA. But when I hear Kamala speak, it sounds, it sounds like a script from Hollywood with a really, really bad actress.
Did he just hawk to it, bro?
He just hawked to it. Oh.
Sounds like
God,
a really
so
bad
good.
script from Hollywood with a bad actress. You don't say, Hulk. You know,
People around the world are obviously watching American politics right now because I think everyone instinctively knows that this is like the final stand here, right? And they get to see that. It's just, it's like, it is a movie, right? I mean, it's just amazing. You got Hulk out here flexing on the stage, crowd going crazy. Who wouldn't want to be a part of this?
I agree. Well, okay, so the next one, a little controversial because not everybody has a short memory, and a lot of people went up against Donald Trump, and there was even a few clips that like seemed a little detrimental for your character. But I gotta say, this dude, if he's genuine, is part of the future of the Republican Party. It's just my opinion. I think some people played, I don't think General Milley really wears makeup. I don't think he's really a homo. I think he's a TV general, and I think he's fifth generation warfare. I hope and pray to God that Vivek Ramaswamy is the same way, because this dude is really kind of brilliant.
We believe in self-governance, that the people we elect to run the government, for God's sake, ought to be the ones who actually run the government, not unelected bureaucrats in the deep state that are running the show today. So you want another mass deportation? Let's get 3 million federal bureaucrats out of the DC bureaucracy. That's the mass deportation that saves the country.
I was so fired up at this point, dude.
Yeah, he's mirroring what we talk about. They're basically talking in a non-speak, I guess I'm doing air quotes, where we've been for a while, but that arc of where the storyline is going is continuing to intersect with us instead of us pursuing it, which is interesting. But yeah, hearing people like Vivek speak, I mean, obviously the guy's brilliant. He may well have been playing a role too, no different than, RFK, who, by the way, if I could just throw that in, I believe it's a good chance that the White Hats would go to somebody like an RFK and be like, hey, bro, they killed your dad and your uncle. How would you like to get some retribution, some justice out of that? And then had him kind of serve as pulling away votes that would otherwise go to Joe, but people that didn't really want to vote for Trump kind of gave them a place to go. And then he jumps on board and brings them with him. And I think that was all timed.
Hey, yo, I'm about to put you in an awkward place. You too, Dave. I'm about to put everybody in an awkward place. Because some of the chats I was involved in has nothing to do with anything we've ever talked about. It has everything to do with this movement and where we believe it may have potentially started and blah, blah, blah. RFK Jr. has been called JFK Jr. by Donald Trump. There's plenty of people in this movement that have been made to look crazy for believing that JFK Jr. may still be alive. Now, let me finish. We have just recently heard Donald Trump call RFK JFK. We have also heard a Navyman say that he recovered the airplane and JFK. We know that JFK Jr. vowed to expose the people that killed his father. I've heard people in the chats talk about last night was a perfect opportunity to expose if JFK Jr. was alive. I don't buy into that, only for the sake that if it's possible, if it's even a thing, I don't think that we're there yet. I think last night was a huge step forward. However, the election isn't complete and some other things are coming down the road. I'm not saying JFK Jr. is alive, but I am saying that his legacy is living in what we're going through. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
Touche. Yeah, it's like Epstein, right? I believe there's a good chance that Epstein is alive and will brought out at the right time. I just don't believe we left him in that hellhole in the middle of New York. The cameras were out and all these things that had to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. You know, is it a trump card? If it was true, I think it's arguably could be one. But you know, who knows? Super interesting though to watch, right? It's the greatest whodunit of all time.
Yeah. Dave, you're
I'm actually just looking at my Telegram account right now, and I'm finding at least 3 clips just off the top of my head that I'm seeing. One, Laura Trump on Fox, one on Gutfeld, one with Donald Trump and Maria Bartiromo. I'm sorry, Brett Baer. All of it's where people slipped and called RFK JFK Jr.
Whoa.
I guess that could be a mistake. But it's one of the things I've noticed. There's been a
wait.
Pattern recognition being a thing.
Yeah, I'm just pulling one up. This is the 28th of January on Gutfeld. I'm trying to find the other clip, but the one that really jumped out at me, if I can find it, is here. It is. Nope. That's not. Well, I'll see if I can find it while we're talking. But the one that really jumped out at me, it was like last summer when Donald Trump was talking to Brett Baer, and he said, "Here it is." You want to just pull this up?
Yes. While you're pulling it up, I want to answer some of these people in the chat. Look, I am not saying he's alive or dead. I'm just exploring the conversation. Everybody chill out. Okay. There's no one's here saying JFK Jr. is, negative 48 or whatever. I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. But what I'm saying is that the conversations are being had. So let's acknowledge it. That's it. That's all. Everybody chill out and have the conversation with us. That's it. Okay.
All we can do is observe.
He's got somebody at 21%. I just saw a number, 21%. JFK Jr., who's a very nice person. I know him very well. He's a very, very fine person. He's at 21%.
But DNC's not going to do any debates. He won't agree to them.
So
what does it mean?
Right. So that's where I can't dismiss that. It's not the fact that he made the slip. It's that he ostensibly slipped and said JFK Jr. Brett Baer twice corrected him, and he just talked right through it. Now, somebody explain to me why that happened. I don't know. I'm not. I agree with you, Rambo. I'm not saying anything, but we'd be remiss if we're ignoring this kind of stuff.
Here's my rebuttal as a normie. My normie rebuttal. I watched the whole Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan was frustrated at one point because Donald Trump wasn't listening. He was talking.
He was weaving.
He was
I'm doing the hand thing right now.
Yes, you're right.
But Rambo, let me rebut that really quickly. Yeah, he was weaving, but he weaves to make a point. He doesn't weave to sell a mistake.
Yeah, but he doesn't listen.
Well, he's very measured in what he says. like I think he kind of beclowns himself as part of his shtick that keeps people off balance. But I don't think he makes many mistakes. He's been known for a long time to tell us things ahead of time. And a good example was before the 2020, he kept saying they're going to steal it, they're going to cheat, they're going to steal it. And that's what happened. And then now he's talking about how they're going to try to steal it, but we're not going to let them have it this time. So he's telling us things, and those numbers that he works in, being, instead of just responding and off the cuff, he has very specific things that he wants to hit, and then he weaves them into the conversation. So I guess when it goes back to what Trump says, I mean, the guy just tells us the truth, even if it doesn't make sense at the time or we don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think he's very controlled in what he said.
I think you're right. Let me clarify, Dave, to what I said. When I just said Donald Trump doesn't listen, I think that I understand why. I think that I understand why he doesn't listen, because he doesn't have to. He knows what's coming. Right. So when you're asking him questions and they're not pertaining to the message he wants to put out because he's aware of what's next, he doesn't have to act like he's listening to that or answer that, because it doesn't matter to what's happening next. So I'm not saying that he's not listening, but when he talks over someone like Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan gets frustrated over it, I think that Donald Trump has a point in why he's doing it, but it comes off to somebody like, look, Joe Rogan's the most watched podcast on the freaking planet. So when Joe Rogan talks and Donald Trump just keeps stomping on him, Joe Rogan's like over here getting a little, you could tell. If it was somebody not as important as Donald Trump, Joe Rogan would have been like, shut up, bro. I'm trying to ask you a damn question.
Yep.
He had to be respectful.
Well, yeah. I'll also add this. I don't care if anybody gets mad at me. I don't care. Dave, you already know what I'm about to say. I have a hard time even saying this out loud. That didn't look like the Donald Trump that I've been watching obsessively.
Nope. I texted you, didn't I call you on Saturday? And I said, or I texted you, somebody, well, let me add one side thing to this. No, let me go on this first. Sorry. Somebody needs to explain to me how whoever that was sitting on Joe Rogan's podcast forgot that he played golf the day after the assassination attempt, because you don't forget that. If nothing else, you are Donald Trump. You are the greatest self-marketer in human history, I might argue. All right. So when you have a headline the next day of how badass it is that you went and played golf and it didn't bother you, that got shut, you don't remember a great marketing opportunity. You don't forget a great marketing opportunity like that. And Joe Rogan asked him straight up. He said, no, but he was wavering on it. He goes, but you did golf the next day, right after you shot. He goes, no, I didn't. And then he kind of came back around and said, well, maybe I did. Dude, I don't know. Somebody
he said, I don't remember. Ayo, did you hear that?
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense, because there's certain things that stick out in your life, like almost getting your head exploded on 4K on television, and then kind of like what you did the next day.
All right, I got a clip. Hold on.
I think that's a crack in the matrix right there. I really do. I think that's a major crack in the matrix. I don't know.
All right, I got a clip. All right, so this isn't the exact clip you're talking about, but it pertains to what we're talking about. You ready?
I was.
He was a nice
once
guy.
they shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing. I think our timing's perfect. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
What do we say? What do we got
So right over here.
It healed up pretty good, man.
It's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't
It's
get
a little bit-
cauliflower.
No. It was sort of like a top shot.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the bullet was a little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit, but it makes me a tougher guy.
I'm
The
sorry,
fighters.
I
The fight.
I can't take that clip.
He's so funny.
He's so funny.
Well, at least the caricature of him is funny, right? I mean, it's just.
I'm a fast healer.
Yeah,
dude. I watched that 3-hour podcast over the course of 12 hours, in between all of the things I had to do, work and kids and family and everything else. And the last hour of it, I watched on the way home from the Elon Musk event that we went to. And on the way home, I watched it, and I stopped at McDonald's because Kim, for the first time in 2 years, craved McDonald's. And while I was in line, I called Dave, and I'm like, Dave, that last hour of that interview did not look like the dude that I've been obsessively paying attention to for 8 years now. It just didn't. And I don't know if it's me, or I don't know if it was the circumstance, or I don't know, but something just didn't feel right.
Well, I might as well tell you what I said since we're going there.
Okay.
And I don't talk about it a lot because I always maintain the point of it doesn't matter who's playing what role, who's real, who's not. It's a matter of what they do. And that even goes down to Elon Musk and Alex Jones and all these other people. But I said the same thing. I'm like, listen, if you're going to put a gun to my head and force me to answer this question, I personally, all I'm going to say is this. I very often go and I look at clips, and very often by watching your show, because you point to these times so much, 2020, pre-August of 2020. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But you watch the clips of Donald Trump. Look, that was only 4 years ago. I don't think you aged that much in 4 years, but maybe. I look at that dude in 2020 that stood at the White House in the press conferences, and I look at the person I've been watching for the last 3 years, and I'm sorry if you put a gun to my head, that's not the same dude. It's not the same mouth. The real Donald Trump has a much more rounded, pronounced mouth, et cetera, go through it. And so what I said to you is exactly what I'm going to say now is, if I had to die on this hill, I'd say that ain't the same dude. And he stood up in front of those Whirlpool boxes. I think there was 17 of them in August of 2020 and said, there's some powerful people that don't like me. You might not be seeing me for a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
A freaking men.
Right. Even the guy, you notice the guy that plays golf for him. Leaders have had stand-ins forever. Right? This isn't new. But the guy has to be good at golf. So that probably that shortens the list of potential people, right? But they have that one guy that comes in and looks a little bit more haggard, right? But he goes out and he plays golf on behalf of Trump. But I'm sorry, that's not the same guy.
We got 2,700 people watching this say that. This is awesome. Hit the thumbs up, guys. This is about to get real good, too. We're going to go into some more. We haven't even gotten into Trump's stuff, what he said yesterday. This is a blast. I'm having so much fun with you guys. All right.
Rambo, let me just throw in two quick things we don't even have to have commentary on it, but since we were talking about it before and since we're going there, the other three clips I immediately found speaking about JFK Jr., the Freudian slip. We don't have to play them, but you're going to get what I'm saying by the names.
Ayo, what time do you have a thing? 3 or an hour, right?
No, yeah, don't worry. We're good to go. Okay. Let's go.
All right, go ahead.
The 4 that I have right off the top of my head in this Telegram channel: Donald Trump, Laura Trump, Greg Gutfeld, Jesse Waters, all on the air, slipping up and making the same mistake. I guess
all of which have also given comms.
Right.
Oh. Narrative seeding.
And they did wait. They did wait until July 17th of 99 to call in the missing body. The search radius around Martha's Vineyard was exactly 17 miles.
This is not what I meant this show to be, but you're right.
It was conducted by the Navy and not the Coast Guard. And now we can move on, Rambo. I don't know. I don't know.
It's worth making observations.
What are we going to watch next?
They're just exactly, AO. I'm just making observations. I'm stating things that we know. The rest of it, I don't know.
Joe M. Okay, look, I know many people that know Joe M. I have never met him, although I'll bite my tongue on that. If anybody can convince Joe M. to put his face back out here as one of the greatest legends that ever lived in this movement, I would. I don't even have any money. I'll sell a bunch of buttons.
Child labor.
To try to get Joe M on this show. He's one of my heroes. That's the truth.
A lot of people don't know he's still on X. He's just a parody.
No, that's what I was.
I'm not going to give it away.
Do you know Dave?
I don't.
I never told you.
I don't think so.
I'll tell you when nobody's listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, here's the next clip. This one's actually really important. This is not a throwaway clip that we just laugh at. I thought that this was super. The next 2 or 3 are actually very, very important. I want to hear what you guys think.
Does anybody know the last time a Republican president campaigned in the Bronx? It was Ronald Reagan, and ladies and gentlemen, he turned New York red. I'm just saying.
That's important. That goes back to what we were already talking about.
Same as California. I think California's red.
I think California's red. I think they're all red. If this goes honest, if this is really protected, if the reason I say this when you bring up California is it seems, AO, I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff that I've reported on, but they're bypassing the state government on many levels and going straight to the federal government in California. And the messaging being amplified is the fact that the state government is not qualified or doing the right thing. It's kind of mind-blowing. And so if that's the case and it carries over to elections, we may see exactly what happened with Reagan.
I'd be willing to bet that he won both those states, New York and California, in 2020. And listen, the one thing we've talked about this many times, Rambo, but I think it does bear repeating. I'm not saying this because I'm right. I'm amazing. I know more than anybody else. It's just a theory I've been saying for the better part of the last 6 or 8 months, which is there are way more awakened people than anyone realizes. The only difference between a place like Florida, where I sit right now, and New York, where I would otherwise sit, is that the people of New York are more afraid to talk about it. But after yesterday, you can't deny it. There was 100,000 people, okay, that descended on Madison Square Garden on a Sunday, and like 4 protesters. Where was Antifa? Where was BLM? Where was all the tight jean people from Brooklyn's that hate Trump? Where were they? And the conclusion I keep telling people is you're allowing yourself, because of that one guy that still hasn't gotten the memo yet, you're allowing them to paint a picture of what that is different than the reality of what's happening in the world. And yesterday, that to me is the biggest takeaway from yesterday. You visibly saw the reality of what's happening in one of what people consider the deepest blue places in the world versus the reality of what's actually happening, which is completely different than even what people in this movement think is happening in those big cities.
Dude, we left Elon Musk's event 2 nights ago, and there was a homeless kid and his girlfriend standing on the corner holding a sign that says, "This cooter," he didn't say cooter, but "This cooter grabs back." And that was it. In all of Lancaster. Now, it's not New York, but it's PA, and it's one of the larger top 5 cities in Pennsylvania. And there was one homeless kid and his girlfriend holding a sign that said, "This cooter grabs back."
Yep.
Nothing else. Nothing.
And were there any, nothing else happened, right? That's it.
Hold on. I'm remembering. There was one kid that was so ambitious that he must have signed the pack, because you couldn't have gone unless you signed the pack. Second, he got in line. Third, he asked a question. And fourth, he got humiliated by Elon Musk. He stood in line just so he could say, January 6th, Donald Trump caused an insurrection. He bad on vaccines, whatever, all the narrative. And Elon took his time, as Elon would do. Look, I don't typically get starstruck. I will tell you, being 4 rows from Elon Musk speaking, you were aware that he was one of the richest, smartest men on the planet. It was like there was a feeling where you knew that this dude, like he even joked about, Bill Gates and I don't get along, and you're like, that is a world I'm observing, but I have no idea what that is. It was awesome. And that kid stood his ground. He was very ambitious about what he believed, and he wasn't. Yes, he got some boos. I did not boo him. I literally told Kim the same thing I'm telling you now. I'm like, I can't believe the dude took the time to sign the pack, to come in here, to get in line and to say what he had to say. And Elon treated him with respect and also dismantled his thought process. at the same time. It was freaking brilliant. It was
Yeah, he commands a presence for sure.
Yeah.
He got one of the loudest ovations last night too. Hands down.
There's a reason. There's a reason he freaking announced the first lady.
Yeah.
Look how crazy they are about attacking him because he's wealthy. Meanwhile, you have like Mark Cuban, right? Like, it doesn't apply. It only applies to people if they dare come out against their agenda, right? I mean, it's sick. It's like you're not allowed to have an opinion that doesn't conform to theirs. And I think a lot of this process is allowing people like to walk around just wearing MAGA hats, realizing that we're, so many more of us are on the same team. And I preface that by saying, I think, one thing that I've noticed is that over this last however many years, when you talk to people and you get the feeling like you might have the same politics, you kind of got to both kind of do like feelers. And then if you figure out that you're on the same page and you're like, oh, okay, good. Almost like you have to hide like in the closet, right? Ideologically. And people are now realizing that it's okay and there's more of us. And then as you stand up, it has this exponential factoring event happening where other people, and so it's a self-perpetuating machine at this point, right? It's like a steam, they can't stop it.
Exactly, AO. That's what I thought was one of the biggest takeaways. And that's what I posted about yesterday on X. I said, you got to understand, I know a lot of people haven't lived in one of these cities, and I wouldn't encourage it right now. But the point is, if you've ever lived in New York or LA or Boston or Philly, there's literally a hive mentality. But it's very easy to influence. And so, Rambo, if you wouldn't mind throwing this, it's just 20 seconds.
I had a feeling you might say that. And endorsed a total ban on handgun ownership. I don't think that's good. When a criminal crawls into your house at night, it would be nice to be able to at least have a chance.
When I saw this, it is the moment where one of many where I literally shed a tear yesterday. Because if you told me 4 years ago that was going to happen, I had a feeling it was going to happen. I didn't know when. And to see thousands of people standing outside of Madison Square Garden peacefully, and the Garden putting his speech with the sound on the Jumbotron, and nobody getting attacked, nobody protesting, that's your takeaway. And in a city like New York, guess what happens now, to AO's point? It suddenly becomes okay. Not only okay, it's going to become trendy and cool to like him. And that's when the masses start shifting very quickly. And I think when the script's written about this period, they're going to point to last night.
I want to share a story with you guys I didn't plan on talking about. It's not a secret. Both of you know very well my story. And the ending of my story is my dad. The ending of the story I tell that led me to where I am today is my father asking everyone in the hospital room, basically his dying wish, for everyone to go vote for Donald Trump. And on my way home, I drove home between 6 and 7 o'clock last night. Donald Trump was not yet speaking. But the next clip I'm about to show was a moment for me that made me talk to my dad in the car alone. It made me turn it all down, push pause, and speak to my father. And I pray all the time. I meditate all the time. But I don't always talk to my dad. Very emotional for me. And I also can't pull over and just take care of it because there's 4 kids at home and Kim would get upset. Rightfully so, if I didn't come home on time. So when I got home, I was at the end of the process of talking to my father, and there was tears streaming down my face. I was bawling. I'm not even kidding you. And it was because of this clip. What you just showed, Dave, led me to this thought process, but I want you guys to know that what this dude said, I think, was the mic drop moment of the night, even over Donald Trump's speech. And it's a shame that I have to play it before Donald Trump clips, but they did, so I'm gonna. And if you only show up for what Donald Trump says, which I do most of the time, you're gonna miss these moments. And this was the moment of the night. if I were to pick one.
We all say, make America great again. But let's just go over for a minute what that means, because we all say it as a slogan. When was America great? At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. We had no income tax. And all we had was tariffs. All we had was tariffs. And we had so much money that we had the greatest businessmen of America get together to try to figure out how to spend it. That's who we were then. But then we had World War I and we had World War II. And we felt we had a duty to rebuild the rest of the world. So here's what we did. We took down our protection. We took down our tariffs. And we turned instead and we taxed Americans so that we could export the power of our economy and save the rest of the world, which we did. Now let me ask you a question. What decade should that have ended? Should it have ended in the 80s, the 90s, 2000? What in the world are we doing? We're letting the rest of the world eat our lunch. And it is time to make America great again.
I lost it. I lost it. I lost my shit, and I started thanking my dad for putting me on this path and putting my face out there to try to be one of you guys that are fighting this battle. That dude made me lose it.
Yeah. The truth behind it too, man. I mean, that's beautiful. I look at it and you realize that once people, they're demonizing tariffs, right? But they have to, because let's say, for instance, Trump was successful and got rid of the IRS. That would be awesome. But we can live and have abundance as a result of this without the tax. Then we understand that the IRS, for example, is used as a system of control, right? To keep us in debt, to keep the handcuffs on us, to give them the right to intrude into our business, right? That was always the intention, not to fund the government, because as we know, if you can print money out of the ether, then why do we even pay taxes in the first place, right? Start asking questions that don't make any sense because it's all based on bullshit.
100%. Good, Dave.
I find it really interesting how I think what you watched yesterday was yet another extension of when we talk about narrative deployment, like how quickly, look, there's many of us that have been theorizing that the IRS and the Fed is going to be gone. We don't know when, but logically it kind of has to in order for us to get back to everything that Howard Lutnick was describing there. But I find it interesting how in a matter of like the last, not even 2 weeks, it started, Rambo, if you could just pop my screen up real quick. It started with this. This is in a different website, but this was written by the New York Times last week. So literally follow this deployment of a narrative real quick. This is what I believe. The New York Times publishes this story last Thursday. Within 48 hours, Donald Trump is on Joe Rogan, the largest podcast in the world, being asked about this and teaching. Ironically, Rogan has 17.5 million followers on YouTube. That might be a coincidence, but the point is he's talking to tens of millions of people about not having the IRS and why and how that's how it used to be and how the original founders intended to fund the government. Then, of course, you have on Sunday Howard Lutnick coming up and telling 200 million people about that. Sorry about the noise in the background, but so it's just amazing to me how quickly they've actually added this conversation to the public discourse, something that wasn't even possible. And everything AO said and Lutnick said is exactly right. That's what people need to learn. I studied finance in school. We know what a tariff is. They didn't teach us that that's how they used to fund the government. It wasn't until I went to China for the first time in 2004, and there's a guy driving a Buick. I'll never forget this. It all connects now. The guy said, it's a luxury car. I said, how is a Buick a luxury car? And the guy said, because we pay 100% tariff. So you buy a $30,000 Buick in China, it's $60,000 because there's a 100% tariff. And at the time, I was there importing buttons and things like that, Rambo, ironically. And we would bring in millions and millions of dollars of product every month to the United States. And do you know what my bill was for tariffs? Nothing.
Yeah.
Zero.
We got sold
Absolutely.
out. Our interests were sold out, right? That's just it. The art of the deal. The deals were made intentionally bad for us, right? As a vehicle of help bringing America to her knees. You know, that whole agenda, it's so sick once you see it. And that gets back to what we talked about, that everybody needs to feel it. That's why you remember talking about narrative seeding. Think about the IRS union. Well, I don't believe that any government agency should have unions, but aside from that, but Kamala campaign comes out and is like, we got the IRS union backing us. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if that helps you. I think everyone pretty much universally loathes the IRS, right? But it's just funny because it's set up in the way that you have to now be, if you're a Dem, you have to be against getting rid of the IRS, right? Sell that one to the public.
It's a life-changing thought process to be able to recognize that not only have we been enslaved by taxes, but that was never what this country was meant to be. And when you can understand that there is a deep state, Donald Trump talked about the enemy from within, and they used it against him. They tried to say that he was talking about the American public. And we that have been paying attention are well aware that that's not who he was talking about. He was legitimately talking about the infiltration within our own government or our own government itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go back to this type of system that we were originally supposed to have, then life becomes completely different.
Right. So they have to hide that from us.
Exposure campaign turned up to 117% last night.
Awesome.
For the masses. Everyone freaking watched it. And if you didn't, you saw all our clips. Hat tip to everybody out here that's a digital soldier, amplifying the message.
117%.
Right. That's what fifth generation warfare is. And that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a coincidence that he introduced Elon Musk.
Madison Square Garden, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the greatest capitalist in the history of the United States of America, Elon Musk.
He's so quirky. I love it.
I love it too.
All right. As you can see.
Hold on. When I saw him 2 nights ago, he walked out and he did the jump just to say F you for making fun of me. It was really funny.
Yeah.
I'm not just MAGA. I'm dark, gothic MAGA.
Okay. Am I the only one that thought Gotham?
Yeah.
We'll touch on that later.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's the energy in this room is incredible. What a great group of people.
All right, I've only got one question for you, and then I'm getting out of here because
All
this
right.
is your stage. But we set up DOGE.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we could do at least 2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
2 trillion.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that.
The most important thing I thought he said at the town hall that I went to was not his quote, but it was something he said. He said that time is true currency.
Interesting.
He said your time is your true currency, not the paper.
Yeah. That number 2 trillion is amazing. You know, what is that? Is that 20,000 stacks of $1 million?
Whoa.
Well, wait a second. I just realized Truth for Me Always just posted something that I just realized this might be nothing, but wasn't Elon Musk heavily involved with Dogecoin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the acronym of Department of Government Efficiency?
I'm not trying to. Whoa. Say that again.
Department of Government Efficiency.
What the?
DOGE.
Oh, holy shit.
Right. And you go back to how long this has been in play.
Holy shit.
Joe just had an aha moment. See? It went right through to the heart.
That might be just a coincidence.
Holy shit.
Oh.
It's a lot of coincidences, right?
That's not a coincidence, dude.
No,
I don't
was
think so.
being facetious.
I'm glad I bought $300 worth of Dogecoin when I heard him say that last night.
Right?
Well,
It is
the idea that
it
there's
is
that kind of
DOGE,
waste.
right? It is.
Well, I mean, what do we have? 3 million people that work for the federal government. So many unelected bureaucrats. Obviously, the Chevron decision is going to reversal is going to have a huge impact on that. But the bloated, our government, I believe, is used as a jobs program mainly. Like DEI, I believe, is a jobs program for all the people that got these degrees where there wasn't any jobs there, so they invented them. You know, but it shows that how inefficient they are that we can cut off $2 trillion. I mean, you know, always outspending what we take in, and you know, the people that are, it's beyond completely untrustworthy with our money. I mean, there's nothing they do. I mean, our debt is so large we can never catch up with the interest. But the people that put us here are the ones that lecture us. You know, the ones that want to flag somebody for selling $600 and getting on a Cash App. They want a chunk of that. Meanwhile, they flush trillions of our dollars away. I mean, it's insulting.
How far back does this operation really go? That's not a coincidence. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm still freaking AO. I barely heard what you just said.
Oh, let me turn on my mic. Yeah. Oh, you're.
It's not your microphone.
Yeah.
Department. Stop it. Stop. How does that acronym line up exactly? Doge is not new.
No. Well, we know that you know this goes back a lot longer, but since we mentioned JFK earlier, I mean, remember 7 days before he was assassinated, that he was going to destroy the CIA and scatter it in the wind in a million pieces, something to that effect.
Wait. Hold on. That was like 7 days before he.
Yes.
Really?
Yep. 7 days later.
Okay.
After that happened. Right. So, I mean, I believe that this operation that we're seeing kind of come to a head was started as a result of that. So, you know, all these things had decades to be put in place. The scope of that is it's almost unknowable. It's like trying to wrap your mind around infinity.
Okay. Wait a second. So I got to ask you guys this question because I did not realize that I knew he said that. I didn't realize it was so close to his quote unquote plane crash. So do you guys?
No. JFK, not JFK.
Oh, I'm sorry. But that was still 7 days.
Yeah. So when he said that and then he was murdered, and I think that's why his gravesite, if you look from the air, was a calling card because that was opened, I think, 3 years or so after his death. That was like a marker left ahead of time that nobody really ever noticed, right? Until now with drones and et cetera. Obviously, it's a giant queue. And I think that that just signifies that that's when this operation kind of kicked off in response.
Wow. I'm starting to think some of those people that think that JFK faked his own death are not that crazy anymore. You think he's going to say that 7 days before he goes out in a convertible and they change the motorcade route and all that? Like as if he didn't know? As if he didn't know what making a statement like that would mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of nuts.
And like I said, we don't know, but we can
don't
make observations, right? And we
Right.
learn a lot over time, and we compare that to what we thought we knew. You don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? So you believe what you see. And this whole process has helped us look through what's presented to us to see kind of behind the curtain, using it like a Wizard of Oz thing, right? So it's just interesting to think about.
Rambo, you with us?
No. Department of Government Efficiency. You gotta be kidding me.
It's crazy.
Bro, he is the godfather of Doge. He made millions doing it. He also literally said things like, don't buy it tomorrow. And it crashed. And then he said on Saturday Night Live, like, oh, Dogecoin. And it peaked. He's manipulating Dogecoin. I am a big believer in 4POG using words and things to give us a message. I know for a fact that Stormy being very obvious, Daniels meaning only God can judge me, and Trump is convicted, right? So we can do so many others. It's retarded.
Yeah,
we
it
can do
is
so many.
retarded.
It's retarded. The coincidence that Dogecoin is the acronym for Department of Government Efficiency is not a coincidence in my eyes. What you guys just did was send me down a rabbit hole for the next week, bringing back everything that ever happened with Elon Musk and Dogecoin. Look forward to it. Pay attention to my Twitter. I am stuck on this.
Nice.
I smell an epic thread coming.
Bro. My mind was just blown for a second. I'm sorry. I was over here smacking myself in the head while you guys were talking. I'm trying to figure out how that happened. To me, what you guys just showed me is the equivalent of good win 15.
Right.
It's an impossible coincidence.
So go back probably and look for clips of Elon talking about Doge.
Oh, I'm on it. I'm already doing it. You guys don't even realize I'm so fast. I'm already on my phone. I've ended the show.
Right.
I promise you that is where I'm headed. I'm sorry, kids, but I'll get McDonald's.
Soylent Green is people. Don't do it.
Dude, that's not a coincidence.
No. So Jax just wrote, Dave, you broke Rambo.
No, you didn't.
Blue screen of death.
You just lit a fire under my ass.
All people are watching in real time is what happens like at 3 o'clock in the morning to all of us when we're on.
That's true.
That reaction is what every night you're just like,
dude.
And it gets back to the point earlier where we have to experience those moments. It's not just one moment, right? But it's all those moments of discovery, and some of them are bad and uncomfortable. But it's kind of like the child sex trafficking. Nobody wants to really talk about it, right? Nobody's happy that it occurs, but we owe it to the kids that got chewed up already, that are being chewed up and will be chewed up by that system, right? But those discoveries, good and bad, when we make them, they shoot right through to the heart, right? It like opens new doors. I think that's the point.
You know what's funny? For me, I'm still stuck on the Doge thing, right? But you're right, AO. But okay, so the connections made in what you said, Dave, in the post you read, hat tip as shit. But now I'm going back and going, why was it spotlighted last night at the largest freaking? It's all leading me to having to go research this and put it all together so I can write it for everybody to read. Holy shit.
Dogecoin is currently up 9.7% today. Currently trading at 16 cents. If it closes at 17, I'm going to lose my shit.
Right. Well, you get back, we told control, right? And then we keep seeing control, and you think it's happenstance. But, you know, and I've mentioned it before. I mean, if anyone has ever done like a remodel, right, it's never going to be on time, or builds a software build, et cetera. There's always unknown things that happen. And Ricky, the electrician, was sick, so he didn't show up in time. The drywall guy has to wait. Then you miss an inspection, you sign a change order, and a 2-month project to redo your kitchen or whatever takes 4 months, 6 months, right? I mean, that's the way it happens. Almost always, right? But here we are in the world's largest operation project, give it a name, in history of man, right? And here we are 8 years today for this phase, right? Which is pretty amazing that we even have to say that. And we're on schedule 2 days ahead of time, you know.
Ayo,
it's impossible without control.
What is the mascot of Dogecoin?
The dog.
Dog comms.
Yeah,
the death
well.
of the Fed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Donald Trump wearing gold ties all weekend. Dan Scavino wearing a gold tie.
Yeah. Once again, I mean, they know. So this is a really good point. Well, I think it's a good point. But so when we think about bigger picture, we look at like Dan and we look at Trump, and so they're well aware of what we all believe is happening, and they signal to us all the time, right? And so the only takeaway is they're either evil and they're just stringing us along, right, mocking us and such, right? If you believe that, or it's the opposite, right? I mean, you can't have it both ways, and I don't think Trump and Scavino are evil, which logically then implies to us that they're well aware that it's real, right? It's kind of like deductive reasoning. But all the comms, I mean, how many have there been, right? It's mathematically impossible that it's not intentional.
Somebody said, what is the dog com? The dog com is that the mascot for Dogecoin is a dog. If you know what dog comms are, it references all the way back to John McCain. No name. Done in 30.
Every dog has his day.
Every dog has his day. On International Dog Day, done in 30, they predicted that he would not leave on his own terms, and he died of quote unquote brain cancer on the day before International Dog Day. Then his daughter came out and said, "My father, you can't kill him again." And then Kasha came out and said, "It's been less than 24 hours since John McCain was put to death." It was the greatest proof that we have that there are military tribunals happening beyond our knowledge, beyond the mainstream media's information control, which I would venture to say is now in the control of white hats, and that is why we were told that and shown that.
Didn't we see it down to was it the minute or the second?
The minute, bro. The minute.
Yeah, down to the minute.
What the hell?
And
well, so when you see people die, yeah, when you see people die, think about how weird. I don't remember the exact time, but you know, you typically round things off. It was like, you know,
oh my God,
it was an odd time for that to happen, right? And down when they report it down to like that level of detail seems unnecessary, right? Like down to the minute when it wasn't, you know, you think like at 1 in the afternoon or 1:30 or whatever it was, but it was like 1:24 and then seconds, because I believe, if memory serves me correctly, a lot of the reports had it down to the second in the news, right? Like, why would they include that?
And we were told, and the mainstream narrative was brain cancer. And then his wife did a tour, one speech specifically where she talked about human trafficking directly after, which also pointed back to the drop. I don't have, if you guys want to see the thread, you can go to many places. Stormy Patriot Joe did one. I believe Abs and Stormy Patriot Joe did a show on it. I'll do my best to try to research and share that in the Telegram, but you can go actually in my thread. I believe I referenced their show. So if you go to my page on Twitter and look on X and search on my page, dog comms, and read the whole thread, you'll see what we're talking about. It's a mind-blowing proof. It's one of my favorite proofs that there is. It's a very complicated, long proof, but it is a proof.
Yeah. And the military uses them too. I mean, how many times have all the branches chipped in with similar dog comms? I mean, it's definitely a thing, but if you're not familiar with it, I agree with Joe. It's worth time looking into.
Look, Abu Babakar al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. He's done this many, many times. He has used dog comms many, many times.
How many times have we seen Adam Schiff with a dog lately? These random dog But Rambo, I you know what? You just really, I think this all just kind of came together. I think if you have the time real quick, you should take 4 minutes now, I think, because I talking to a lot of people didn't see Friday night. If you ask me personally, Friday night was the most important piece of Donald Trump comms that we got all weekend.
Is this the clip you have?
Yeah. Now, what?
Hold on. Can you guys hear me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the greatest connections I saw on this was Abs. Abs brought up the fact that it was black and gold. Black and gold is the same colors the Army wears. And not only that, but when Dan Scavino reposted this and he said 10 days, it was done in the same font that the Army uses. Blew my mind. Okay, let's keep going. Holy shit. See that?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
Doesn't change the music. Doesn't change the music.
This triggered a bunch of people on the left. The black trench coat too.
So vicious. It's savage.
That he drug it out and played the whole song is amazing.
Look at the grin. I know something you don't know.
I got a secret. I mean, why would he play the whole Undertaker song?
Black and gold is savage. He did 2 other events that day, Joe Rogan and another one, and he was wearing the yellow tie the whole time. And now he comes out dressed in black and gold, playing this whole song, and then Scavino puts the Army logo, and he did air cues.
Rambo, and somebody else, I didn't know this, so somebody else pointed out to me because I literally posted this right away. I've watched this clip literally 100 times already. It's the most badass thing I think I've ever seen him do to date, literally. But somebody pointed out that's not just the Undertaker's theme song; it's overlaid with Chopin's funeral march. Okay, there's 2 songs blended together there. It's the Undertaker's theme song overlaid with Chopin's funeral march. Black MAGA hat, black trench coat, as AO pointed out. Walking in, I have also never, outside of like a conference, I've never seen him get introduced without his regular music. He left it going and just, this went on. This whole clip is 10 minutes long. This drag, we don't have to watch the whole thing. You guys get the point. But
I saw, you know who Aaron Rupar is? One of the leftist pundits, that little midget. He and others were commenting on how crazy it was that he just stood there while the Undertaker theme, like it really triggered them.
And Rambo, I just want to show 2 more things and then hear what you guys have to say, but it'll connect to what you, the other screen. Do you guys remember this like a year ago? Dan Scavino, Eric Trump, Don Jr. Well, that's sure interesting. Black and gold. Batman.
Yep.
Where was he on Sunday? He's wearing a black and gold hat.
In New York City.
Dan Scavino put this up. Remember this video with the Batman logo in it? This was 11.3. Holy shit. He posted on 11/3/23. I didn't even realize that. Oh my god.
I can't wait to find out how much we missed through all this.
And then this is from Abs. Abs was the one that picked up on this.
Yep. There it is.
Love me some abs.
Me too.
And now connect all of that with Chopin's funeral march and DOGE and death of the Fed. Wow. There probably is nothing there.
I feel like I just got shot in the ear. It's unbelievable. It's why the masses can't believe it.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
You're muted somehow, Dave.
The other piece in that post was that clip that was going viral. I don't. This is not going to have sound, but remember on Batman?
Are you
It has sound. Batman. Yeah, I just posted that this morning.
I don't know. There's something that
I added when Elon said black, not Gotham. He said Gothic. He said Black Gothic. I said that sure sounds like Gotham, and I put it on top of that. I posted that before. I saw the same thing. That's unbelievable, bro. My mind is so blown right now. I can't wait to start digging. I want to get rid of all you guys and ignore Kim and all the kids and just start digging on Dogecoin.
And by the way, Rambo, I want to point out there are 6,000 people watching this right now between your 2 platforms,
guys, and we're almost at 1,000 likes. If you could, let's boost it. Let's get over 1,000. There's 3,000 watching just on Rumble right now.
Wow.
It just did 3,000. Yeah, hit the thumbs up. I'm not done if you guys aren't done. I know you have a time. I know you're going to turn into a pumpkin at some point, AO.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm getting ready in the background. Just keep going. We're good.
Okay. All right. If you guys don't mind, I just have a run through Donald Trump's actual speech last night. Let's just do them, and we'll hit them, and then we'll get out of here today. So I don't even have these in any particular order. I think they're in order, but I'm not sure. Let's just go through them, and we'll listen.
And we'll cut your energy prices in half, 50% within 1 year from January 20th. Is the fake news hearing that? Whoa! Look how much. Wow, that's a lot of fake news. That is a lot of fake news. Look at that. Wow. That's got to be a record, Mr. Speaker. I think that's a record.
That is a lot of fakers back there. To bring back millions of.
Wait, am I the only one that's not seeing that as they're fakers because they're going along with what's happening at this point?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, I think he's telling us things. He's telling us things that if you just pay attention to what he's saying, and it's not always exact, right? But he is telling us, in my opinion.
AO, I use the drops, think mirror, right? So I'm looking at what he's saying and I'm thinking mirror almost every time at this point. He's telling you it's fifth generation warfare. It's a shell game. So this is the fear mongering reality of what they wanted to do to you. And this, if you look at it on the flip side completely, is me telling you the truth.
Yep.
In some way, he's been able to take everything they were doing to the country and expose it and somehow use it to further the plan in a positive way. It's mind-blowing.
While at the same time allowing people to see for themselves, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, allowing them at the same time to see for themselves organically the contrast and everything. Not the least of which, just like you said, is the media. So you can't just flip the switch on the media and make it all unicorns and rainbows. You have to also, if you're controlling the good media, you have to also control the bad media. There can't be dark without light, light without dark, right? You have to show both sides of it. And I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing at this point.
Which explains why the what looks like mainstream attacks on Donald Trump and opinions have become so extreme they're unbelievable.
That's right.
The only ones that are still believing it are the homeless kid and his girlfriend that are holding a sign saying "My cooter grabs back" outside of Elon's thing, but they're all by themselves.
Yeah, my guess would be if I were running this, and I'm certainly not, just a dude, but my guess would be it's going to hit a point over the next few weeks or maybe between now and the end of the year where it gets so ridiculous that we get the only thing we have left that believe it is that 4 to 6%, which you kind of got a hat tip about that this weekend from Rogan, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Did you see that, AO? AO, did you see the poll that Joe Rogan put up and it was 4%? I think you did. You posted it too.
96 to 4%. You know, and if you look back at other polls, he's run the Krasentine idiots, you know, any other number with hundreds of thousands of respondents, right? Not 1,500 weighted against, you know, blah, blah, blah polling. And it's always like 75, 25, 80, 20. And I get a feeling it's probably pretty close to where it is nationally. But yeah, Rogan's poll, 96 to 4% Trump over Kamala. That's, I mean, when you get to 60%, right? So 51%, if you're looking at votes like in the House or anything, you have to get one vote over. 60% is amazing on any issue nationally if they agree on it. Like 85% of the country, both sides, believe we should have voter ID, right? But when you're talking like 85% for one side, 75, even in this case, almost 100%, that number is, I mean, that's so massive, it's almost hard to comprehend.
And the thing, I think the reason it jumped out at so many people is it opened pretty much at 96 to 4 and it stayed that way. And to AO's point, I'm not trying to go too far down a rabbit hole, but if you understand statistics, it's almost impossible to get a poll on an issue that vague to stay at 96 to 4 unless somebody wants it to stay that way.
Well, I mean, it's a real life Q proof. I know we already talked about it, but I'm going to show it.
Yep.
We're there.
Yeah.
According to that poll, we're there.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we've been there for a while. I think it's just getting, more and more people on the lifeboats. But at some point you can't wait till everybody wakes up. That's impossible, right? Right. 96 to 4, but that 4% might be reminiscent of that percentage that is left behind.
And I think what's going to be very interesting to see that yesterday demonstrated, that's why I can't overstate the importance of yesterday. Like when you see 100,000 people descending on Madison Square Garden and 3 protesters show up, I mean, literally, like that's what they were saying it was. And I knew 4 or 5 different people who were on the streets. So it's not like we weren't being told about stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens if we hit a steal, because now you got the whole country on Team America.
These guys just put us at 1.07 likes.
Of course it did.
I freaking love this crew.
Swing.
1.07. Heck yeah, that's awesome. All right, you ready? Next Trump clip.
All right.
ISIS, but that was already started. We had stupid generals like Milley and Mattis, weak, stupid people. But fear not, we have great generals, just not the ones that you see on television all the time. And we wiped them out very quickly. It was going to take 5 years. Mattis said it would take 5 years, and I'm not sure we could do it. It took us like 4 weeks. We have great generals. We have the greatest military in the world. Just a lot of people don't know that.
Go ahead. Ayo, you want to go first on the TV versus the real generals?
I mean, how many times has he said that, right? He hits the same points over and over to drive them home, right? And so when you talk about the TV journals, and to your point, Milley, I mean, yeah, we think Milley's bad because that's the way it looks. He very well could be playing a role, or, you know, the opposite could be true. But the fact is that the generals that we see on TV, I mean, he's telling us it's different than the people actually calling the shots.
Ayo, I would point back to something that we just kind of collectively as a group, with the exclamation point of Joe, Stormy Patriot Joe and his team. We just proved that General Milley was at the beginning of what we think, speculatively, with very good evidence, basically told everybody about devolution or something thereof, right? So Trump showed his chart many, many times, did it again last night. The chart he loves, he kisses it, he takes it to bed. And he even said it on Joe Rogan. I can't believe Joe missed an opportunity, in my opinion, by not asking him, hey, Donald Trump, you realize that's not when, you were supposed to have left office. So why is it pointing to April? And he has come out many, many, many times and said every day is like April Fool's in this country. And on April Fool's Day of 2020, Donald Trump held a COVID presser where General Milley and some other generals and some even the worm, who's the guy that I can't even spit his dumb name out. I hate him so much. Dr. Fauci. No, Dr. Fauci. Oh. They did a COVID presser, but I will tell you that 90% of that presser had nothing to do with COVID. They announced that they were moving military assets all over the planet, and they were doing so to fight, COVID, which was 5% of the whole thing, but the rest was about drugs and terrorism and all these things. On April 1st of 2020, where that arrow points, when Donald Trump says he left office, the military basically told us that they took control.
Yeah.
In that
and how many times has he referenced it? Once again, telling us things without directly telling us.
It blows my mind. And then we just went through this the other day on the show, but there's a couple times within the 30 days prior that he talks about we're at war. He basically declares war multiple times on camera. Then they have that presser. And then a few weeks later, something else even bigger happens. It was literally a transition moment in the country. And Donald Trump uses that chart to tell you every time since he's gotten shot in the ear.
And he's a wartime president.
Right. And we will no
longer. Which is odd since he only ended wars.
Right. Right.
And the executive order, Rambo.
Yeah. The ones that Biden keeps re-signing.
Yeah, March 27th. That was the executive order that authorized the federalization of 1 million troops. That's still in place.
But
that was 3 days before that press conference.
But nothing's happening.
Nope.
Just coincidence. Total coincidence. I love when somebody yesterday told me on this thread to take my meds. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that executive order was I'm off the top of my head. 18. What is it? 13.48.
13912.
Yeah, and 38, right? I think they're both.
Right.
But Biden has re-upped them every year, which is crazy because it's the framework. It's the way I see it. It's the framework by which the cabal is going to be taken down, and he keeps re-upping it, right? Like, why would he do that unless he's controlled?
That's right. That's exactly right. 13848 and 818 is the election fraud and crimes against humanity, plus also 912, which is the federalization of the guard. How do you explain that? I know how.
I mean, that's rhetorical, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Here, I got a point before we move on. Everybody knows about the inauguration, right? It was fenced in, barbed wire and fences. We watched a dystopian, at best, inauguration that happened early. The Bible was upside down. Freaking Lady Gaga sang, dressed as the Hunger Games, right? So we can look at that. Day one, he signed 17 executive orders. That's not obvious. And then he sat on sound stages, used digital windows. He extended.
It's retarded at this point.
Got locked out.
Right.
Got locked out of the White House.
Right. He extended.
Oh yeah, that was right.
Remember day one, he wasn't even allowed in, and their excuse was because they fired Trump's butler.
I'm sorry. That's one. Honestly, out of all this stuff, I hate to go off on a tangent. That's one of the stories where there's going to be a lot of people that feel really stupid later on that they actually believe that you believe that for all the pomp and circumstance around the inauguration, that somebody forgot to unlock the door. Cool story, bro.
Yeah. Well, you remember they had the views of the inauguration from that building, the top where all those journalists were looking down. And it was really small. And then the difference between the actual weather that day and some of the clips are sunny and it was overcast and cold. Yeah, a lot of that just doesn't make sense. It looks like it's made for TV.
Well, and then we had all the crazy distraction events, the shooting in Vegas, the Christmas bombing in Nashville. We had the spy balloons. We had the fires in Canada, all started simultaneously. We had the fires in Hawaii. We had the truck explosion in Philly. We had the bridge collapse in Baltimore. I believe some of those were kinetic warfare on our own soil. But they couldn't possibly tell us that we had kinetic warfare going on our own soil. 7-Eleven comms from Elon Musk walking in with the sink, right? We can run the whole gamut. And then, go ahead.
Rambo, there's sauce to back up what you're saying. And again, I learned this by watching dudes like AO and Stormy and Abs. Like there was a Q in real time was telling you, I don't remember the year, I think it was 18. I don't remember the exact drop, but there was an incident that happened at the Atlanta airport where they were telling you it was something else. Like I forget, somebody ran the tarmac or some whatever the cover story was. And Q was telling you in real time, that's not what's happening. There's an op going on. So
and the power was cut at the airport.
That's right. Yep.
How does somebody running out on the tarmac?
Yeah.
Dude, the Nashville Christmas bombing happened on Christmas morning. An RV was parked and it announced for everyone to get away. And while it announced for everyone to get away, multiple explosions went off, military style gunfire, which I have proof of. I wrote it in a thread. All of these things happened and they just pretended like a Jewish space laser blew up the RV.
Yeah. Remember LA when the helicopters came in?
Right.
Yeah.
And we have the video of them going into the building and coming out. They're like carrying something, like 4 guys carrying this. Yeah. I mean, we're told it was just, we were just training, and I don't remember black helicopters coming in and landing in downtown LA ever before.
They have the one that they landed on the front of the Capitol too. 3 of them.
There was flying saucers over the White House.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Jewish space lasers.
Do you remember when the tornado just happened to precisely hit the Pfizer factory right where they made the COVID vaccine and no one got hurt and not even a car got touched in the parking lot?
Agreed. Okay. So now take all those anomalies, right? Ohio, Palestine, Ohio train, all of it. Now add on to it that Donald Trump never stopped campaigning. He is now campaigned for 4 years of the Joe Biden greatest red pill that the world has ever seen administration. Donald Trump has never, not once, stopped campaigning. There was a pause for like the first 2 months. Otherwise, Donald Trump, and that was only so Joe Biden could sign those 17 executive orders, shut down the pipeline, to get everybody all crazy because we all expected the military to come in any moment. And then what started happening was Donald Trump put his face back in the mainstream narrative. He showed up on TV. He started doing rallies. He started talking to people. He said that Joe Biden is shot. It's not him. He went to the border and he said, the 25th Amendment is of no risk to me. However, it will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. And what happened? Exactly that. Donald Trump went at the midterms and he said, it's the pause. If there is such a thing as the pause, it'd be a beautiful thing. But what will happen is the past 2 years and the next 4 years, I'm paraphrasing, he says that everybody will agree with us, so it'll be easier to do what has to be done. The drops told us straight up that we had to walk through the darkness to see the light. We have to be shown, not told. It's all lining up so ridiculously that I don't know how people can't see it.
And in my second term, which we're sort of in now.
My second term, we're sort of having in now. He just last freaking week in a barbershop said that I was in DC for 4 years, plus another 4 years, which I was sort of there in a way. He asked another senator, he asked him, am I going to be considered 3-term or 2? He was announced at the freaking gala, 111th gala, 111. Damn, did AO drop off? He's probably got to be somewhere. 111th gala, he was announced as the 45th, 46th, and 47th president of the United States 3 times. One by Gavin Wax, which is the president of the Young Republicans Club in New York City. And now he goes back to New York City, freaking at that place where he had that, just where he had the event last night is enough sign for me to know that something bigger is happening. Hence your post.
Yep. I mean, I think you have to, I was talking to Abs a little bit about this last night. Like you were just saying, if you look at what you did, especially what you laid out on this show, like the events of when you look at Friday, what started on Friday, like Friday morning, the whole thing, Rogan, everything, the video we just played going into Sunday. My God, are we on the precipice of something?
Hey, you're back, buddy. I see your face. All right. I'll tell you what.
I think since AO's sound is cut off, the other thing I'll add that he said before to reiterate what he said, and the flip side of this is the only other way to look at it is, well, then Trump and Scavino and all them are just messing with us. I don't buy that for a second.
I don't buy that for. I agree.
Of course not. So now you look at everything, all the messaging this weekend. Batman, the army, the gold, the black, you tell me what's going to happen next. I don't know. Just something.
All right. So he tried to do his phone, but the Wi-Fi is not letting him do sound. He had to run because he had to get to that meeting he had to be to. We went way longer than normal today. I still have a few clips if you're down.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
I'm all fired up now. The Doge thing's got me. The Doge thing's got.
It's not like I'd be able to lay down and take a nap after doing this. So
no. I just don't. I just can't fathom how anybody can think what we've gone through. Look, I didn't even throw in the fact that Donald Trump was shot in the ear. There was another potential assassination attempt. Then there was a third one that we all debated on if it was real or not. But Donald Trump literally posted his own freaking mugshot. He's still got charges and a sentencing day ahead of him. If you read General Flynn's 5th Generation Warfare and you watch then the 4POG videos, Ghost in the Machine, and the ones after, and then you turn around and look at everything that we just presented on the show, there isn't a chance in hell that you can buy this as reality. Now, when I say that, I'm going to reiterate something. I don't mean that what you're watching is fake. I mean that what you're watching is a presentation of very real threats that this country has had against it for freaking decades. What you're watching is an exposure campaign so that you become aware of everything that was hidden from you, right? The number one question I get when I post is, so all of this shit that's happening is on Donald Trump's, it's in his bloody hands. No, relax. If Donald Trump and this operation didn't expose these things, you wouldn't be aware and standing up against them. We should be grateful that we have been shown what was hidden from us. This is how we stand up and take responsibility for the power Donald Trump promised on Inauguration Day in 2017 or whatever it was, where he said he was going to take power from DC and give it back to we the people. You have now been shown what we are up against. So stand up and do something about it. It's obvious that the good guys are in control. Be freaking grateful, because otherwise those threats would have continued to take over our country unbeknownst to us, and we would be enslaved forever.
Yep.
It's freaking brilliant. Donald Trump told you in the first month, this is the calm before the storm. Well, we have now weathered what I believe to be most of the storm. All I'm waiting for at this point is the tweet.
And I think pretty much everybody in Q world is on the same page when it comes to that. While we may all have different opinions, and by the way, that's all anybody has is opinions. I have to reiterate that at this point in the operation. And anybody that's trying to tell you they know what's going to happen, sorry, they don't. But we are all, I would say, universally in agreement that like we are at an inflection point. Listen, we were all saying that last weekend when we were together in Selma. We all have different opinions about what and how it might play out, but we were all in the agreement that like, yeah, this stuff's going down. That was before all the comms and optics that we got this past weekend. I mean,
Bro,
how I don't know how else to look at it.
the operation is a success.
That's what New York showed you yesterday. That's the most. I know I'm repeating myself, but I have to, because so many people got frustrated and fed up, and they're I mean within our movement, they're letting the one, I keep saying it, the one guy that doesn't get it yet, they're letting that skew their view. And you have to look at yesterday as such an important moment. Where are all the protesters in New York? And to your point, Rambo, about because we get that all the time, you're telling me all this falls on Trump. No, that goes back to what I'm pointing about with the media. That is why it's not just important to tell the people what was done. It's important to show them how it was done. Because the people that want to say that don't believe what you're saying, it's because they don't yet understand that they were living in a false reality that was created by the media. That the 20 million immigrants that came in, the reason Donald Trump's so confident in that number is because they didn't come in the last 3 years. They came in from 2008 to 2015 and on and on and on.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna play these. I still have a handful of clips. As long as you're still down, I'm still ready to go.
Yeah,
I do want to take a second, and I want to say thank you to the sponsors quick.
Go
I see there's well over 3,000 people here. I see all the Rumble rants. Thank you very much. I promise you I will say thank you and run straight down the line. Same thing with pill.net. For all the people that supported the show, thank you. Continue to do so. It means the world to me. We are on the brink of being able to quit our job. When I say our job, I mean my job, so that I can do this full time. You guys are killing it in supporting the show. Thank you. I will get to every single Rumble rant here before I leave. So with that being said, hit the thumbs up, whatever positive affirmation button it is on whatever platform you're on. And here is Kofefi.coffee. Kofefi.coffee. Yep, I got it right. All right, so Kofefi.coffee. This is seriously some of the most, I look up to these people like crazy. You know, this is Julian's rum over here. Literally Carly Bonet, right? So there's a bunch of amazing, Brian Cates, freaking love that dude. Just met AU, right? Dave, you and I met Patriot AU, and seriously, Seth Kessel was singing karaoke, standing on a chair. Not that he needed to; he was already 4 feet taller than everybody else. There is Kaidi, the defender of the Republic. Was just talking to her a few days ago. And then there it is. Rambo's Roast Beer at the Parade has been in the chat. There's a ton of great people on this project. Please go there and support any one of them. I don't even give the actual link that supports this show. I just kind of want to support Kofefi.coffee, because I believe in 8-track and I believe in beer. I believe in Pepe Deluxe. Pepe Deluxe and 8-track are the CEOs of this project, right? So, Kofefi.coffee, please go over there, support them. If you buy Rambo Roast, it does support the show specifically, though. And then I also love giving this dude. I always save him for last because I think he's probably, I mean, no disrespect to the other sponsors, but he's probably the most important to me. I have a very personal relationship with this dude at this point. He he literally texts me about what's going on. We talk. We were just talking this morning, and David Becker is an insurance guy, and we all know that we're up against big pharma. We're up against so many things when it comes to the medical industry. Well, this dude makes sure that you're protected if you have to pay for your own insurance, and he is a patriot through and through. So here is the Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance commercial. Read, if you will. Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Fall is the time of year where insurance companies send out their annual reviews and rate increases. For many, the high cost of medical insurance is about to get even worse. David Becker and his son of Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance are here to help you get the best possible PPO insurance coverage at affordable rates. If you think the cost of groceries has exploded, you should see what the hospitals are charging these days. Without the proper PPO protection, you could be liable for tens of thousands of dollars in the event of surgery or hospital stay. Since 1990, Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance has helped individuals and small businesses get access to nationwide PPOs with coverage both in-network and out-of-network charges in every state. Having a great nationwide network like Cigna will help you keep the cost down to a minimum. If you are stuck paying for your medical insurance, call David for a free quote at 609-577-8557 or visit Mid-Atlantic Business Alliance BA, www.midatlanticba.com/Rambo.
Good read, man. You sound like
dude,
a professional there.
I'm getting better. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. I mean, we seriously, dude, can we talk about this for just 1 second? Between you and your crew and Badlands and their support, this show is blown up in 7 months. 3,000 people sitting here hanging out with us, doing this with me, you, and
it's almost 7, dude. You have 3,700 people watching on X right now.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Thank you guys all for being here. Please support our sponsors. Also, Mike Lindell has been sponsoring this show since 30 people were here. Mike Lindell sponsors everybody. Please go to mypillow.com. If you want to support Mike Lindell, who has been on the forefront of conversation when it comes to election integrity from day one, please go check out all his products. I have a large handful of them. The dog bed was probably the #1 favorite in this house. It's been replaced twice, but that's only because I have 3 dogs. They love them. I love the flip-flops. I love the robes. I love the towels. I love the pillows. But that's mypillow.com. Promo code Rambo. Save up to 80%. All right, cool. You want to keep going?
Real quick, I like Lulu1214's comment. Writes, yes, I poured a drink. Had to. Yeah, I concur.
Right. I know. I got to fill my cup, which I'm probably going to do because I get cotton mouth if I don't sip on something while we're sitting here hanging out. And I know today's show has been long. Please share. Take timestamps. This is what I do when I watch a Trump clip. I know the show runs long sometimes. If you see something in the show that you find important, don't just text the link to your friend. Text the link with the timestamp and let them know exactly where in the show something amazing or something that caught your attention or something you think is imperative happened, and send that to them. Even if somebody only sees 3 minutes of the show, a lot of people will see it and say, hey, those guys talked for 3 hours. I'm not watching that. Well, I hate to cut a show short when it's flowing so amazingly like it is today. And so take that timestamp and send that with the text message, right? That's what I do for clipping Trump clips or when everything else. Give me 1 second, young lady. I see you. Oh, hi. You want to say hi to everybody? There's 3,000 people. So you guys all got to meet Nicholas earlier. Nicholas made buttons. This is Olivia. Olivia is the one that's the same age as my son. Hi. Thank you for interrupting the show. I love you. All right. I'll talk to you afterwards. Do the dishes. All right. I'll do some dishes. All right. So let's move right along with the Trump clips. I only have like maybe 4 or 5 or so left, and then we'll get out of here if you want, Dave. But this one's next in line.
inflation, green news scam, and everything else that they're doing. But we're not going to let it happen any longer. We're going to have the biggest victory in the history of our country on November 5th. It's going to be the biggest victory in history. We're going to.
He's convincing me they're not going to steal it, bro.
You're not the first one to say that. I don't know. I caught that. I don't know. I think, well, not to go off on a tangent, but I think, well, look, I've come down to two scenarios that, and one I think would be the steal, and the other one would be something after a steal. Either they, remember, the 26th of November, he gets sentenced on 34 counts. I don't know if that's an accident that that number's there. But it's interesting. It's certainly interesting. I just don't, I think Rambo, I think we're in agreement though that it would be very difficult to wrap this whole thing up given what has to be done if it was just a straight up Trump victory and inauguration on the 20th. Do you agree?
I think that the election is very, very important. So I've thought about this because I've heard multiple people, you included, say that the worst thing that could happen is for him just to win outright.
Yeah.
Now, my only thought, part of me agrees wholeheartedly. I understand where that thought comes from. I don't think that it's I don't think it's a bad thought at all, and I think it's something we should be prepared for. However, at the same time, last night, the assassination attempt, the mugshot, the 34, the charges that he has to be sentenced on, leave open the door just logically that there's more in store than we are aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So your point is a good one, but I completely expect surprises. Look,
Yes.
Donald Trump told us that there will be an explosion between Kamala and Joe Biden. He's now told us there's going to be a surprise after the election.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. I know that we're down to only a few days until we start seeing results. And Donald Trump tells us he's winning in every swing state. He told us last night to just imagine that we're down by 1%, but we're not.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I mean, look, I'll take it a step further because I was talking to another anon about this last night, and again, I'm spitballing. We don't know, but because we're looking at this as like a binary or three-sided possibility, and realistically, there's probably 17 different ways that this could go that they've gamed out. But look, when I look at this, I look at it from the perspective, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I don't care what I think. The question is, what is going to shake the shit out of the most people? I don't know. It might not be something we even know about. But quite honestly, if you put me on the spot and ask me, Trump winning, let's pick the three most discussed. Trump winning, they steal it, or Trump wins and there's something after the fact. I mean, my God, man, can you imagine they jail the president-elect? That could get fun.
That would be awesome.
Because I'll tell you right now, that 100,000 people in New York that remember, everyone was so worried that no one in New York or LA is going to care. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If they do anything, whether it's jailing him in New York, imagine they jail him in New York, that 100,000 people ain't going to take to that too well, or to a stolen election.
I got to ask you a real question, though.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump gets arrested and goes to jail. Is that real?
No.
Of course it's not. Of course it's not. So
you're watching a scripted movie.
And this is why we want so many people to watch this show, because I don't want violence. And I'll tell you a story from Reawaken. So the first night we went out to that alley bar and we watched everybody sing. And Kim and I left early because our drive was a half hour away. I had a few beers and then I didn't for a while because we had to drive. So when we got back to the hotel, we still had a lot of time. Well, there was a little tiny place right outside of our hotel. So we went in there because we could literally walk back to the hotel. And we had two, and we ended up next to a local guy that lived in that town in North Carolina. And his rhetoric was, I'm locked and loaded. I'm ready to go. I got guns in my car. I got guns in my house. These communists ain't going to take over. They saw my hat, and the dude's instantly, he was tipsy, but some people tell a lot more truth when they're drinking. And this guy was on the brink of causing havoc. And I'm thinking, I hope the white hats are paying attention to this, because at what point is the precipice one step too far where we go off the cliff?
Yeah. And we know that Q tells us no civil war, clean and swift. I think they've gamed it out, and I just think it's important because I've run into people saying that as well. And so here's the dicey thing, Rambo, in my opinion, and I'm literally just going from psychology 101 type of thing. Like, let me ask you a question. If this ended tomorrow, right? In other words, or it ends on November 5th, right? And Donald Trump comes in and gets inaugurated, and we proceed to the justice phase. Do you think there has been an impactful, I don't even mean a moment, but in terms of visuals, right? Like the things you're going to see in history books or now in this day and age in history videos. Think about the revolutions that have taken place around the world. I don't mean bloody stuff. I mean, we saw last year with the Bolsonaro election, we saw 400,000, 500,000, 4 million people standing in a square in Brazil for 3 days. We've seen Argentina, we've seen Hong Kong, we've seen all these different semi-peaceful, non-violent revolutions that have taken place. Like, have we had that moment yet to record in history? I would argue we haven't. We know what January 6th was, but right now we haven't corrected that propaganda yet. So I think it's a dicey thing, and I think the military is well aware of that from a psychological standpoint. And I revert back to kind of common sense, which is, you can't tell me that all this crap has gone on for 3 years and not one militia group has risen up somewhere and we haven't heard about it. That, to me, logic would dictate that they have probably addressed that situation. You have a secret army, hundreds of thousands of people, right? You probably have somebody in every militia around the country that is a handler, that is making sure that stuff hasn't happened yet.
Do you remember CPAC?
Mm-hmm.
The latest CPAC where they had, was it one of the Bolsonaros, I believe, and there was another guy from South America, and there was literally a Brazilian QAnon shaman. Myanmar had a coup, which in hindsight, now that we've been so far, looks like what we didn't want to happen.
Yep.
Bolsonaro was spotted in Florida in grocery stores. He told speeches where he held up a Jewish flag. People weren't happy about that. But it happened very similarly to the way that Donald Trump seems to be supporting. I'm not saying that that's 100% legit or it's not. I'm just pointing out coincidences. The Brazilian QAnon shaman is a kind of a huge tell to me. Right? The dude was literally dressed just like him. He had the same horns, tattoos, everything. The only thing that was different was it was green and white and gold rather than the red, white, and blue.
Yep.
That guy got out early, if you remember, right? I almost talked to him at one point on the show. I've talked to him, but I've never talked to him on the show. But it seems that they're running the same operation in multiple other countries at the same exact time.
Yep.
South America, it's happening. Brazil, it's happening. Myanmar was a tell.
Yeah. Look, even up in Canada, look at what's going on with some of it. Look at Trudeau. Look at the government that, many countries, France, Germany. Yeah, and that goes back to, it's one of the things that, it's a side tangent, but it's one of the things that a lot of people speculate about. And there's a reason for it. You know, there's just been talk of there's a world alliance, right? And it gets propagandized like Nasara and so many other things in this movement. But you were told, what if POTUS is working with Xi and Putin and all these other people? Well, you can't be working with all those people, and you have all the planes running around. Every military in the world is in everybody's country every day, right? You know why is the Indian Air Force taking off from Long Island at 3:00 in the morning, and Mongolia is landing in Australia, and every day. So you don't really need a whole lot of more than just a little bit of common sense.
What about the 4 carriers in the Atlantic?
4 carriers in Pacific, right? Pacific, yeah.
The Q proofs are stacking to the ceiling. All right, hold on. Let's get through these clips. This was getting really long.
Elected, and we got to get the senators elected, because we can take the Senate pretty easily. And I think with our little secret, we're going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over. I also want to thank Jim Dolan and everyone at...
All right. Speculate away.
Well, I just want to clarify one thing. There was people going around on X today saying it was Elon. He was pointing to Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
I know you know that, but just to clarify that for the audience. Dude, I don't know. I know this much. I think when you start to put together the dots on Matt Gaetz and MTG, and I would throw, by the way, you throw Mike Johnson into the picture, who did not mess up, in my opinion, when he told you he was the 45th speaker. The 45th speaker would take you to 1798. That's an interesting year, isn't it?
Especially with everything he's saying.
I'm sorry, I have the year wrong. But the 45th speaker would take you, to the 1870s, somewhere around there. That's an interesting time. He's supposed to be the 58th. So that's an interesting tell. Look, I want to hear your take on it. I don't know what the secret could be, but I think that's just further hinting.
I do.
What you're watching in the Congress is also a show.
Yes. Okay. So that's it. That's a really good point. Here's my take. It's speculative, right? But it's just me taking everything I know and throwing it into this clip. Donald Trump says there's a secret. He says that we can win the Senate, and that with my secret, we have a good chance in the House. Well, the secret is that he has drained the swamp, right? So even if there are Democrats left, which would be the ones that weren't corrupt, they could potentially flip, or it's part of the dissolving of the government, giving it back to us, we the people. So the secret isn't much of a secret, because he's told us, in my opinion, from everything I've looked, right? So this isn't, I don't know, but that's a really big promise in the middle. And I didn't even play to the point where he did what he always does. He did the same thing as he did with the 25th Amendment comment. When he's done, remember when he said, all they want to do is investigate everybody, but they're the ones that are really under investigation. And then he just kept right on going like he didn't say it. And everybody was like, whoa, bro, what did you just say? He did the same thing with this. He states it, and then he steamrolls right by it, like nothing happened. Dude, that was a big comment. I can only see it that something, it leads me back to devolution and Q.
Yep. Listen, I think that another thing that's kind of been speculated on that to me has never made a whole lot of sense, and this goes along exactly with what you're saying, is, and I think because of things like the Brunson case, which I think is more personally messaging than anything. But a lot of people envision, well, there's going to be this day where, 80% of Congress is taken out in one shot. I think it's a lot more likely that's already been done. And what you're left with is like 80 or 90% good. Many playing roles. And the reality is what's left to clean out is really only a handful of people that have been left in there, like the Schumers of the world and the Schiffs of the world, to do what they need to do. If it's them or if it's a double or whatever it is, doesn't matter. The point is, I think we've been even tricked to think that we still need to go in and clean out 80% of Congress. I think it's the other way around. I think it's already been done, and it just doesn't look that way right now.
And bro, the drops told us that there's more good than bad.
That's right. And then you start to look at guys like I was fortunate enough to meet Congressman Mast right here in Palm Beach County. He's ex, I believe, Army Special Forces, if I'm going to get that right. He's always with Corey Mills, ex Special Forces. Like, you start to look and you're like, wow, there's a lot of military in our government all of a sudden. Isn't that interesting? The military is the only way, right? I think you're onto something there.
Let's not forget that Flynn's brother still runs the Pacific. Here we go. You ready?
Kamala tried to turn our military woke. So tonight, whether you are a Republican, Democrat, or independent, conservative, or liberal, I'm inviting you to join the greatest political movement in the history of our country. It's really it is.
I want you to go first.
I was reading the chat.
Okay, listen. Donald Trump just said, Kamala tried to make our military go woke, but I'm inviting every liberal, he's inviting everyone to join the greatest political movement that the world has ever seen. To paraphrase, in my opinion, this was always the point. So the 4 to 6 or they're lost forever, in my opinion, are the ones that aren't ever going to get up and go vote. They're not just activating Republicans. They're activating the country. It doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is our democratic republic. Once we all unify behind what the Constitution stood for, then we can go back to having loving, respectful conversations about the details. We can have the debates. We can go back to what it was that this country was founded on, which was freedom and family and God and love and the flag. Literally the tip of the spear when it comes to freedom globally. So we don't have to change everyone in the country to a conservative. That's not the freaking point. The point is that we stand up for what the Constitution stood for, which was freedom of thought and freedom of choice and freedom of religion. Freedom. So not everyone needs to be transformed into what you believe. What everyone needs to do is stand up and take responsibility for their beliefs. Does that make sense? And when Donald Trump just invited everyone to the greatest political movement, I believe that was his point. It's not about, he even says, I'm not a conservative, it's about common sense. So common sense would say that we should reunify, take responsibility for the power being given to us, and then debate the issues, because we live in a democratic republic.
And Rambo, what is the only thing on earth that can facilitate that to happen? Truth. Period. That's what this is all about. And that goes back to our media conversation. That people need to understand how this was done to them. Because the point is, what happened in this country, and listen, I'll say it, my best friend, who I unfortunately haven't spoken with in 2 years, is a perfect example of that. We are, in many, many ways, other than the fact that he has more tattoos than me, we are the same person. We have the same values. We have very slightly different views. Why can't we talk to each other? Because one of us is living in reality, and unfortunately, the other person is living in an MK Ultra government grade media brainwashing state. And we all know that. And you can't, and that's the saddest part of this whole thing, is none of this division that we've experienced over the last 8 years, I would argue about 96% of it isn't real. It's fabricated. So you literally have people on the same side of family values and financial values and everything else, and they literally, because one is given a different set of information from the others. So how do you even bridge that? The only thing you can bridge it with is truth, and that's what this especially the last 3 years, has been about, was getting people to organically see the truth on their own. And ironically, if you really think about the last 8 years in this country, what has been the most consistent thing on planet Earth besides, the sun rising in the east and setting in the west, although some people will debate that too? It's been Donald Trump. We've all changed. You've changed. I've changed. We've all changed. People have woken up. The most consistent thing this planet has had outside of God has been Trump. He's the one that hasn't moved his positions at all because he hasn't had to, because he's just had to get everyone to get back to some semblance of truth. So we're working on a level playing field.
He's talked about he's named it two different things. What I believe is the same issue. We have the enemy from within, which everybody that has a logical thought process within this understands it's not our fellow Americans. It is the infiltration within our country. And he's also told you who the enemy of the people is. Who has he said, Dave, that the enemy of the people is?
Mainstream media.
Thank you. So, information war. We have broken free from the mainstream media narrative, which was a propaganda wing of the left. The left being the ones he talks about that are extremists, which the ones he talks about are the enemy from within. So if you break the information control, the narrative control, which was blinding the American people, and you then give the power back to the people, and we have an even playing field where thought processes and things that we believe in are just true by nature, rather than manipulated by the enemy of the people, then we can go back to the days of the Constitution.
Yep.
It's freaking brilliant.
It is brilliant. And that's why, very often I've gotten into, let's say, spirited debates with people when they come in, and I say the most important thing is people understanding the media and information control. And they come back and say, no, the most important thing is the children. And I would still argue, no, hear me out. Not that the children aren't the most thing that we treasure the most. However, from a fifth generation warfare, a mission objective standpoint, it's just like giving somebody, you can give somebody a new car, a manual transmission. If you don't teach them how to properly drive stick, they're gonna fry the transmission. You can keep replacing the transmission, they're gonna keep breaking it. So if you don't teach people how the game is played, then we will be less than one generation from falling right back into being tricked and manipulated and brainwashed again. So it is the ending of the brainwashing, which only happens through understanding how it works, that will prevent human trafficking and drug trafficking and government manipulation from happening in the future. That is why he has said exactly what you brought up, that the mainstream media is the enemy of the people, because that is what stops us from being able to know the truth.
Yep. I think I have one or two left, but I think we should wrap it. We're pushing 4 hours.
Right. I follow your lead, bro.
Yeah. This has been, look, getting to hang out with AO, it's always going to be priceless. Getting to hang out with you is absolutely awesome. We're pushing 4 hours on the show. We have touched on just about every topic that all of our shows have ever touched on before. So it has been one hell of a truth ride today. So I just want to say thank you very, very much. Please let me know when I can come hang out on your side. You've now done it 3 times without me coming over there. I want to tremendously. Just let me know, even if we got to film it again or whatever.
I'll drop a call on the Kim for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
But no, man, I want to thank you. This has been, I knew this was going to be, I had a feeling this was going to go well over 3 hours today, with just the amount of stuff that went on.
Yeah.
But just doing all this stuff in real time, having, this many people watching in the middle of the day is just wild to me. And then, of course, I didn't get a chance to thank him before he dropped off, but it was, I'll say it again. And I know I emphasized, Mark said this as well. Just getting to meet somebody like AO in person and pick his brain and listen to him talk, and now be on the screen with him.
Dude, after meeting him, can I ask you something? After meeting him, do you see why I love him so much?
Absolutely, man.
He's legitimately a gold-hearted, gentle giant.
And a leader.
A complete leader.
And a leader.
Yeah. Yep. Free thought, free emotion, free belief. Everything about the man is free. Everything about him is genuine. I hope he doesn't watch this because he hates when I give him compliments. But the dude, like, I had 5,000 followers on Twitter, I think, when I met him. And he boosted my account every time I posted something. And he played a huge part in me gaining the level of notoriety that I was trying to get to, right? And it's not about the notoriety, but it was about just playing my part in this movement. And without AO, me and many hundreds of thousands probably of other people would not be where they are. And from getting to know him, I have found out that that is 100% genuine. He is a gentle, the dude could probably kick all of our asses at once. He's like 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't hurt a fly. Do you remember that there was a moment at the trip where somebody put him in a position that was awkward, and my little ass jumped up like, let's get him, because I was like, no, ain't nobody hurting this dude, right?
Yeah.
It's just that's how I look at him. He's gentle giant about explains it. He is as genuine as they come.
Amen. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I was really happy to be able to share meeting not only him for the first time, but Absolute and his wife, and we could run beer at the parade. We can run the whole gamut of people that we met there. It was such an experience I'll never forget. I cannot wait to hang out with you again at GART.
I know, man. It's crazy. It's only what we might be living in a different world by then. It feels like it's a month away, but it's less than 2 weeks away at this point. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, if I can leave before I ask Dave to tell everybody where they can find him, if I can leave you guys all with a final thought that I have, it's what I believe this show stands for, and this show being all of the friends aspect of Rambo and Frens. I bring people on from different camps for a reason. I bring people on with different perspectives for a reason. I have loving and respectful debates over specific topics for a reason. Once we detach the emotion that we have to some of our belief systems, I believe that we can start to come back together as one country, even outside of our movement. Believe that we are all fighting to find the truth. But the truth is that we're all American and that we're all citizens of this country. And that is the ultimate truth. So we can fight about firmaments. We can fight about JFK Jr. being alive or not, right? I'm just giving you some of the more absurd Sarah, med beds, whatever it might be. We can debate and argue those things all we want. But when the emotion gets in the way, where it becomes divisive that we don't love our neighbor, then we've gone against everything we believe as conservatives and Christians and patriots and truthers. So I believe the truth is in finding unity. And I hope you guys all understand that that's what the show is about. And my little soapbox thing there.
No, and that's what's been so great is watching everybody close ranks. And it's like I said, just to echo what you were saying, that was like the key takeaway for me with last weekend. Is just looking at all these people that have been so influential and 7 years of this movement. And there wasn't a single ego in the room. Everyone's just on the same page, trying to help each other, trying to welcome new people in. That's what this is all about.
My man. Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter. Tell them all the links if you don't mind.
All right. Everything's pretty easy. X, Twitter, it's at NewsTreason. Telegram, I believe it's NewsTreason Channel 17. Rumble at NewsTreason. True Social at NewsTreason, pretty much across the board. But the easiest way is you go to the website right there, newstreason.com. That goes to our link tree, which has connections to everything on there. It's the easiest way to get to everything. And we'll have, looks like at least three more shows coming up this week. Tomorrow, we're going to do a similar recap to this on the weekend with Patriot Underground. Wednesday night, and that's at 7 p.m. tomorrow Eastern, 8 p.m. Mike King. And Thursday, I believe we're recording it, but it's going to stream likely that night. Patrick Gunnels is going to be coming on, and thanks for facilitating that, Rambo.
Well, I don't know if you want it. I don't know if you wanted it or not, but I didn't know the date. I told him that I would offer to be there if he wanted me to, and he said sure. And I said,
yeah,
I'll talk to
if
Dave.
you can come, I got to remember the time. I'll get with you off the air because
Okay.
I believe we're going to record it in the afternoon. I just have to go back through my notes.
Let me know. I told him I'd try to be there, and he said he wanted me to. So if you're down, I'd love to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be doing a deep dive on Bitcoin and that whole side of things, which I think is a really important topic with especially everything we kind of dug up today. And as always, bro, just my compliments to the audience. The audience was on fire today. Some of the stuff they were dropping in there. And this has just been a great time. So thank you as always, my friend.
Dude, we're up to 1.21 thousand likes on the show in the middle of the day. You guys give me the warm and fuzzies. It doesn't even begin to describe it. Thank you guys all very, very much for being here. Let me just say for Awakened Outlaw, he's super simple to find. True Social, Twitter, everywhere. I think his Telegram's down right now. It'll be back though, I'm sure. But he's at Awakened Outlaw everywhere. And the dude is an absolute gentle giant. Please go follow him and know that on Wednesday we will be doing a show with Sarge, SSG, and Feisty Cat. Feisty Cat will be back.
Nice.
And then Thursday we will be doing what has become a weekly occurrence as long as I'm not at work. We will have the Eye of the Storm guys here with Abs and Patriot Joe. And then on Friday, Smart Paul and JF Non are back. So next week I'm doing this week, the rest of the week, we're bringing back all of the regulars that haven't been here because we've been doing other shows. I'm excited to talk to Feisty and Sarge. I'm excited to talk to JF Non and Smart Paul. It's going to be an awesome week. Of course, Stormy Patriot Joe and Absolute 1776. And to start the week off with Dave and AO. It's like, I don't even know what's happening, bro. It's like surreal.
It's amazing, dude. That's a hell of a lineup too. I can't wait to see all those shows because I do. It's a great spectrum of views on everything right there across the board.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys all for being here. I will see you Wednesday. I'm gonna go to work now and sleep in tomorrow, but I'll see you guys on Wednesday after work Tuesday night, and we will continue the week. Guys, keep fighting. There's 8 days left. Get out there and vote early, just like Trump and Elon and everybody are telling us. Thanks, Dave. It's been awesome, bro.
Thanks, guys.
Much love. Peace. Wait, I gotta find the outro. There it is.